The moment I opened my eyes, a woman's ragged breathing came from beside me, soft, broken, trembling. I slowly turned my head, following the faint light from the window, and finally saw her face. Even in the dark, she was so beautiful it hurt to look, but the bruises across her collarbone made my blood run cold. What the hell was going on? A belt cracked down, a bottle shattered, a woman sobbed. Those bruises were made by me. I had been reborn into a man with my exact name. He drank. He hit his wife. He gambled and lived like trash. Chen Zuisheng was once a business legend worth hundreds of billions. But when I opened my eyes, I had become the gambling bastard who beat his wife. You're awake? Yes. Can't you sleep? I'll pour you some tea. No, go back to sleep. I kept my voice as gentle as I could, but she still flinched like a frightened rabbit. I watched her bare feet step onto the cold cement floor. When she reached the door, she instinctively looked back, not at me, but at our daughter in the corner. The way Xu Meng looked at her daughter, and what filled her eyes, made even a businessman used to ruthless schemes, made my heart feel like it was being crushed. In my last life, I had negotiated deals worth hundreds of billions, met powerful figures from around the world, and seen countless women throw themselves at me. I thought I had seen everything, but never a woman like her. After being hurt so badly, the first thing she did after waking was move carefully, afraid of waking the man who beat her. The second was to check whether her daughter was sleeping well. I sat up and rubbed my temples, as memories kept flooding in. He gambled, and whenever he lost, he beat his wife. Shut your mouth. You filthy bitch. How dare you ruin my game? The worst beating left Xu Meng bedridden for 3 days, yet she still had to crawl out of bed and cook for him. He never worked. The whole family depended on Xu Meng, selling fruit at the market. She earned only 2,000 or 3,000 yuan a month. He took it all to gamble, then demanded more after losing. He did not even care about his daughter. When Qianqian had a fever of 39 degrees, he was at the card table. He answered the call with one sentence. I'm playing cards. Call me when she's dead. Then came yesterday. Bro, I lost again. No problem. I'll put Xu Meng up as payment. Tell me what she's worth. How much could Xu Meng possibly be worth? Why wouldn't she be worth something? She's pretty. Come tomorrow if you don't believe me. I'll let you see for yourself. Today, his gambling buddies were coming to inspect the goods. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Xu Meng brought me a cup of tea. Just then, Qianqian whimpered uneasily in her sleep. I lifted the mosquito net and took the cup. Come inside. Mosquitoes might fly in and bite the child. Xu Meng suddenly looked up at me. She could not believe the man who only beat and cursed her would say something like that. She climbed onto the bed and soothed Qianqian back to sleep, then lay with her back to me, her body slightly tense. After a long while, she whispered, "You can't sleep, can you?" I murmured yes, as if receiving a signal. Her trembling fingers moved toward her pajama buttons. The bed creaks a little. Be gentle. Her voice held numb resignation. My head buzzed. I instantly understood. The original owner had actually forced his wife beside their daughter. To calm his possible outbursts this way, disgust and rage surged into my head, followed by an even sharper wave of heartbreak. I grabbed the hand undoing her buttons. Xu Meng. I looked into her eyes and called her name seriously for the first time. Listen to me. You never need to do this again. Her whole body shook violently. Her eyes widened, filled with shock and confusion, and a faint hope she dared not reveal. Go to sleep. Tomorrow I'll give you and Qianqian a decent life. The moment I said it, a plan became clear in my mind. I woke as soon as dawn broke, not from habit, but from the urge to change everything immediately. It burned too fiercely for me to sleep. Xu Meng was lifting Qianqian from the bed as quietly as possible. When she saw my eyes open, she jumped in fright. Sorry. I woke up on my own. I sat up. I'll take Qianqian to school today, then I'll go to the stall with you. Business has been poor lately. I knew she thought I wanted money again. Fear had become instinct for her, but this time I did not explain. I got up and walked into the kitchen. There were only a few eggs in the fridge, and a bowl of cold rice. The emptiness was heartbreaking. When 2 plates of fragrant golden egg fried rice reached the table, Xu Meng and Qianqian stood nearby, staring as if at an impossible miracle. Qianqian tilted up her little face. Mommy. Daddy knows how to cook. Xu Meng did not answer. She only stared at me, with complicated eyes. The market was noisy and chaotic. I stood before Xu Meng's fruit stall, and frowned slightly. It was far too shabby. There was only one kind of apple, piled up messily. A crooked cardboard sign read 3.8 yuan per half kilo. The vegetable seller next door shouted, "Well, look who's helping today. Zuisheng, did the sun rise in the west?" I did not even glance at her. My mind was racing. Only one product, no competitive edge, rigid pricing, margins too thin, sparse foot traffic, nothing attractive at all. Xu Meng had to pay the overdue management fee. Before leaving, she looked at me uneasily and whispered, "The apples cost 3 yuan per half kilo. Got it. Go ahead." She walked away, looking back every few steps. I crouched down and weighed one of the thin red plastic bags in my hand, then studied the hurried crowd around us, who ignored this little stall completely. A plan to ignite demand instantly formed in my mind. I pulled out the cardboard beneath the crates, picked up a marker from the ground, and wrote 2 large lines. Then I tore down the old 3.8 yuan sign without hesitation, and placed the new one in the most visible spot. The auntie next door leaned over to look, and burst out laughing. 20 yuan a bag. Fill it however you like. Chen Zuisheng, has alcohol finally rotted your brain? You'll lose even the pants you're wearing. I slowly stood up, and smiled at her. Auntie, business isn't only about weight. I don't care how much one bag of apples earns. I need to clear the stock fast and recover the cash. Then revive this lifeless stall completely. The new sign worked almost at once. A middle-aged man came over. "Boss, is it really 20 yuan for however much I can fit? They aren't sour, are they?" I casually picked up an apple, cut it open neatly, and handed him a slice. "You decide whether it's sweet." After tasting it, he said nothing. He snatched a bag and started filling it, trying to stretch it until it burst. I smiled calmly. "As long as you can carry the bag, the apples are yours." Those words opened the floodgates. The crowd swarmed over all at once. 20 yuan was not much, but fill it however you like. Those words instantly awakened people's most basic impulse. The auntie's smile froze. Her mouth hung open as she watched the frantic crowd and the apples vanish. She even dropped her scale weight and forgot to pick it up. After paying the fee, Xu Meng saw from afar that our stall had disappeared beneath the crowd. She hurried back with worry written all over her face. Her face turned pale, thinking I had caused trouble again. She desperately squeezed through, but froze at what she saw. She saw me standing behind the stall, neither groveling nor exploding in anger, just standing there steadily, collecting money and handing out bags, while people fought like mad for her apples. The same apples she could barely sell before were disappearing before her eyes. When she saw the sign saying 20 yuan per bag, "Fill it freely," her face went white. "Are you crazy? 20 yuan for however much they can fit? We'll lose everything." "Relax." I pointed at the plastic bags. "They hold 5 jin at most. We're guaranteed a profit. Look, they think they're getting a bargain, so they're fighting to give us money." She froze, then looked at the line. "How much have you sold?" "Almost 500 yuan. 500? Her eyes widened as she stared at me, like I was a stranger. The apples were nearly gone, but a long line still waited behind them. I asked her, "Should we restock?" The people in line immediately shouted, "Boss, hurry up and get more." Xu Meng quickly made a call. Following my instructions, she ordered an entire truckload. When our supplier Old Li drove over and saw the scene, he could hardly believe it. He stared at the bustling stall and clicked his tongue in amazement. By the time we needed to pick up Qianqian, more than half the truckload had sold. Old Li counted on his fingers and exclaimed in shock, "Good heavens, you must have sold over 1,000 jin today." Xu Meng could not believe it. Revenue was roughly 4,300 yuan. I added that this small amount was nothing, but it was the first step toward putting this family back on its feet. Xu Meng looked dazed. She had struggled to earn that much in an entire month. After closing the stall, I took Xu Meng grocery shopping. Fish, meat, and ribs cost nearly 300 yuan. Xu Meng moved her lips but said nothing. I knew the expense hurt her, but we had to celebrate today. When we picked up Qianqian, the little girl saw my hands full of groceries and jumped with joy. "Daddy, are we having a feast?" "Yes." "Sweet and sour fish and braised ribs." I bent down and rubbed my cheek against hers. "Yay! I love Daddy the most." She bounced around me happily. Xu Meng watched us, and her eyes softened. Once upon a time, this home held only silence and fear. Now it finally had a little warmth. The 3 of us walked home, talking and laughing. Qianqian chattered non-stop, and a faint smile rested on Xu Meng's face. This scene was everything I wanted after being reborn. As we passed the grocery shop at the alley entrance, Qianqian suddenly tugged my clothes and pointed with shining eyes at a glass tank inside. "Daddy, look. Little goldfish. They're so red. And so pretty." They were only ordinary goldfish worth a few yuan each, but to Qianqian they were precious treasures. "Okay. Daddy will buy you one." Xu Meng turned back. "I'll go wash the vegetables first. Come home soon." She carried the groceries and walked lightly toward the old apartment block a dozen meters away. I held Qianqian while she chose a fish at the shop. Just as I was paying, from the corner of my eye, I saw several men drift toward our door and surround Xu Meng as she took out her key. My heart sank. "Sister-in-law, we've been waiting for you." Xu Meng was clearly startled and stepped back. "What do you want?" A yellow-haired thug leaned closer with a sleazy grin. "We just came to remind you. Your man, Chen Zuisheng, had terrible luck at the card table last night, so he used you to settle his debt and promised to let us have some fun."
Xu Meng sway.
And the groceries fell from her hands. Her face instantly drained of color, as if every ounce of strength had left her.
I rushed over.
Xu Meng had already turned around, with her back to the thugs, facing the direction I was coming from. There was not a trace of color in her face. Only tears poured silently from her eyes. She looked at me holding our daughter, and carrying a goldfish bowl, walking over like a good father. Her lips trembled, as though she wanted to say something. Then I heard her. "Chen Zuisheng, you spent all last night and today, putting on this entire act, just to make me walk into this pit myself." She suddenly bent down, picked up the groceries from the ground, and hurled them at me with all her strength. "I hate you. I want a divorce." The groceries struck me and scattered everywhere. Qianqian was terrified and burst into tears. "Mommy, don't hit Daddy." Before I could speak, Xu Meng turned and rushed toward the house, but she did not make it inside. A narrow-eyed thug grabbed her wrist. "Hey, sister-in-law, don't leave so quickly." His hand slid upward as he grinned. "Your man put it in writing. You're coming with us tonight." I saw Xu Meng freeze completely. Her fear was even worse than before. At that instant, something exploded inside me. "Let her go." When my voice turned cold, it carried the force forged through 10 years in the business world. My palm struck the narrow-eyed man's face. He staggered several steps, and blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. He covered his cheek. Everyone froze. "Kill him." When he recovered, he lunged at me like a madman. His fist came swinging. I sidestepped it and kicked him in the stomach. He screamed and flew backward, curling up on the ground and retching. The remaining 3 charged me, cursing. I moved fast. Wrist locks, throws, elbow strikes, knee strikes. The combat skills I learned in my previous life targeted every painful spot. In less than a minute, all 4 men were on the ground. Behind me, Qianqian raised a tiny fist and shouted, "Daddy, beat the bad guys." Xu Meng said nothing. I walked over to the narrow-eyed man and planted a foot on his chest, looking down at him. "I'm done gambling. All old debts are cancelled. Come back again, and I'll beat you every time I see you." He still tried to act tough. You owe us money and won't pay. We'll call the police." "The police?" I laughed. "Organized gambling, with huge stakes. Want me to tell you what crime that is? I have evidence on my phone. Should I call them for you?" Their faces instantly turned pale. "Sorry. Brother Chen, we were wrong. We'll leave right now." I stopped them and glanced back at Xu Meng. She was still trembling. "Apologized to my wife." They looked utterly humiliated, but still lowered their heads. "Sorry, sister-in-law. Now go." I kicked the narrow-eyed man aside, and they scrambled away. The world fell quiet. I turned to Xu Meng. Tear tracks still covered her face, and her body was trembling. Her eyes held fear, doubt, and deep hurt. My heart ached as if pierced by needles. I walked up to her, looked into her eyes, and spoke each word heavily. "Xu Meng, the old Chen Zuisheng, was human trash. For everything he did, 10,000 deaths would not be enough. I don't expect you to forgive me now. I only ask you to give me one more chance. I swear on my life, from this day forward, if I ever let you or Qianqian suffer again, may I die a horrible death." Xu Meng stared at me as tears rolled down her face. Her lips moved. Then she shouted with red eyes, "Chen Zuisheng, you're such a bastard. I'll never trust you again." Then she pulled Qianqian inside and slammed the door. She did not mention divorce again. That was enough. I opened the door and went into the kitchen. Soon, The aroma of sweet and sour fish and braised ribs filled the room. I carried the food to the bedroom door and knocked. Dinner's ready. Don't let the child go hungry because you're angry. I'll sleep in the living room. I put down the tray and turned away. From behind the door came Qianqian's little voice. Mommy. Smells so good. A while later, I heard the faint clink of bowls and chopsticks. I lay on the hard sofa, staring at the ceiling. The road ahead was long, but the direction had never been clearer. Protect them, and truly rebuild this home. Creak. The bedroom door opened a tiny crack. I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. A few seconds later, the door gently closed again, but this time it was not locked. The corner of my mouth lifted slightly. Over the next few days, I went to the stall with Xu Meng every day. 20 yuan a bag. Fill it however you like. Became a spectacle at the market. We consistently sold over 1,000 jin of apples daily. In less than a week, Xu Meng had a full 10,000 yuan in her account. At night, she often could not sleep. After several days, sales began to fall. So I came up with another idea. Bring in some cherries and blueberries. She frowned. I've tried that before. They never sold. This time will be different. I divided the stall into 2 tiers. The basic tier was 15 yuan per jin, with apples and peaches. The premium tier was 25 yuan per jin, with unlimited cherries and blueberries. All fruit was washed, cut and packed in boxes. Add 1 yuan for unlimited yogurt. Add another yuan and get 1 jin of apples. The redesigned stall was clean and fresh, and stood out sharply in the messy market. That day's revenue exceeded 3,000 yuan. What pleased me even more was that more people chose premium fruit than basic fruit. While closing, she could not help asking, why?
I smilte her.
Because the expensive option feels like a better bargain. For only 10 yuan more, they can take premium fruit freely. Who wouldn't be tempted? Business is a game of human nature. She scoffed. You always have an answer. Her words sounded dismissive, but she could not hide the smile at her lips. That week, we earned over 10,000 more. Another large sum entered our hands. The light slowly returned to the way she looked at me. One day after we brought Qianqian home, we saw a sharply dressed man at the door. Xu Meng's elder brother.
Xu Hai.
Brother. Xu Meng ran over happily. Xu Hai gave her a brief look, then swept his knife-sharp gaze toward me. Xiao Chun, come buy cigarettes with me. I knew he wanted to speak privately. When we reached the parking lot, he pointed at a BMW. This car is worth over 200,000. What do you think? He took out a bank card and slapped it into my hand. There's 200,000 inside. The car is yours too. Divorce Xu Meng tomorrow. She keeps the child. You keep the money and car. Then we're even forever. After hearing Xu Hai, I shook my head. I'm different now. A dog can't stop eating filth. Xu Hai's face instantly turned cold. Xu Meng was the treasured daughter of our family. Look at the life she's had with you, drinking and gambling. Do you deserve her? Name your price if this isn't enough. Anger surged through me. I knew he was cursing the original owner, but the words still cut deeply. Give me a few months. You're worse than mud. He cut me off. A country bumpkin from the sticks. Do you think college made you a city man? If Xu Meng hadn't been blind back then, what would you even be? People like you only marry up for money. A beautiful wife makes you look good, right? Do you deserve her? I clenched my fists, then slowly relaxed them. I was born a farmer and embarrassed your family. I looked into his eyes. But don't throw money at me. You can't buy me. In 3 months, I'll earn 1 million. Then you can come talk to me again.
Xu Hai photo.
Then looked as if he had heard the world's funniest joke. I ignored him and turned back toward the house. When I got home, Xu Meng came over, with worry in her eyes. Nothing happened. Your brother was encouraging me. I lied with a smile. She did not believe me, but asked no more. Xu Hai stayed for dinner. At the table, he surveyed the old furniture and frowned. Why keep all this junk? Aren't you embarrassed? I was about to speak when Xu Meng gently tugged me beneath the table. She said quietly to her brother, Zuisheng really has changed lately. He gave me many good ideas and helped me earn some money.
Xu Hai's not gonly.
Without replying, just then, his phone rang. He answered it, and his expression changed instantly. What? President Liu hates our marketing proposal? Didn't we agree to finalize it today? The voice on the phone was frantic. Even I could faintly hear it. President Liu says the proposal is too old-fashioned. What? Exclusive life? And timeless masterpiece. He says customers don't buy that anymore. He'll meet you personally in 3 hours. If you can't revise it and still can't satisfy him, we lose the entire planning fee, and your position may be gone too. Xu Hai hurriedly opened his laptop and spoke humbly with the client. The client wanted a premium image. Without seeming arrogant, it needed cultural depth, but also had to feel youthful. I listened for a moment, then glanced at his proposal. The entire approach was wrong. Luxury property does not sell houses. It sells access. I said nothing, and returned to the kitchen. When I brought out the next dish, Xu Hai was gone. But his laptop remained open. The screen showed a mess of unfinished material. Brother went outside to make a call. Xu Meng looked deeply worried. If he loses this deal, he may lose his job too. I heard this development is their company's most important project this year. Qianqian suddenly looked up. Daddy, are you better than uncle? Only if you prove it to me. I smiled and sat down. I moved the mouse, selected Xu Hai's unfinished proposal, and deleted it all. Are you crazy? Xu Meng cried out. Wasn't it saved? Saving it would not help. His approach was wrong. I did not explain. My fingers fell onto the keyboard, and I quickly became absorbed. A new marketing plan took shape under my hands. Community network operations, resource integration, and a membership identity system. When Xu Hai returned and saw me at his computer, he exploded instantly. Who told you to touch my computer? He was trying to help.
Xu Meng Huriden Adlight.
What the hell does he know about real estate marketing?
Xu Hai Rusek over.
Ready to erupt, but suddenly froze. On the screen was a complete and neatly structured marketing proposal. Yet the next second, his eyes turned red. Where is my original proposal? Deleted. You? His whole body shook. Do you know how many nights I spent on it? But just then, his phone rang. The deadline had arrived. He stared at the nearly finished new proposal, his expression shifting. Finally, he gritted his teeth and sent it. Then he glared at me. If this deal dies, I'll never forgive you. There was no result yet. I calmly took a sip of water. Less than 10 minutes later, his phone rang again. He listened for a few moments, and the corner of his mouth twitched. After hanging up, he gave me a complicated look, then grabbed the laptop and headed out. I'm going to the office. I'll settle this with you later. I smiled faintly. I knew what awaited him. The ideas in that proposal were far beyond the level of planner he was. He could never explain them clearly. Sure enough, my phone rang not long afterward. It was Xu Hai from the other end. His voice sounded awkward. Chen Zuisheng, can you come to my company right now? President Liu insists on meeting the real planner. Send me the address. I'll pick you up. On the way to the company, Xu Hai drove very fast. The car was painfully quiet. He said nothing, and neither did I. At a red light, he kept a stiff face, and finally forced out a sentence. When we meet President Liu, don't talk too much. I'll handle it. I glanced at him. So you can keep making things up and be exposed on the spot? His face reddened and he fell silent. We entered the reception room. A well-dressed middle-aged man stood up and pointed at the projection. Mr. Chen, the concept of a high-level social ecosystem is excellent. How would you implement it? I walked to the screen and had the assistant open the operations page. I designed a membership identity system. First, buyers must pass a residence committee review. Money alone is not enough. They must bring value to the community through connections, skills, or influence. Second, reserve 30% of the units for rotating residents. Invite top entrepreneurs, artists, and scholars for short stays, so the community carries its own prestige. Third, hold a private forum each month. Only industry leaders may attend. Outsiders cannot even buy tickets. President Liu's eyes lit up. Turn the property from a commodity into admission to a club. He asked several more questions, and I answered everyone smoothly. The senior planners nearby nodded repeatedly. Excellent. President Liu stood and looked at me with blazing interest. Our marketing director position is vacant. The annual salary is 500,000. Will you take it? 500,000. I felt Xu Hai stop breathing. I smiled and shook my head. I need to help my wife at her stall. I'm not considering a job right now. President Liu froze. I continued, but there is something I may need to say. Please do. Your property's price is too conservative. The air in the room tightened.
Xu Hai Huriden to get measly.
President Liu narrowed his eyes. What do you mean, Mr. Chen? Given the current market, our price is already the highest in the district. If I'm not mistaken, you plan to open at 85,000 per square meter. I paused. I recommend raising it above 120,000. A wave of sharp breaths filled the meeting room. Someone was already shaking his head. President Liu said in a deep voice, Mr. Chen, You may not understand this market. Anything above 90,000 is difficult to sell here. That's true for now. I walked to the window and pointed at the empty land east of the development. First, last week's Development and Reform Commission minutes mentioned expanding the Eastern New Cities rail network. Second, the new mayor said at last month's construction forum that travel time between new districts and downtown must be shortened. Third, the Planning Bureau website recently updated the Eastern District land use map. The plot east of your project changed from reserved land to transportation land. The meeting room fell silent. Everyone stared at me. Connect these clues and consider the new mayor's background. When he previously worked in the Southern New District, his first major project was extending the subway line. My judgment is, within 6 months, the subway extension plan will be announced, and the station will most likely be right east of your project. President Liu shot to his feet. How certain are you? 70%. I answered calmly. But even at 50%, it's worth the gamble. Once the news is announced, property prices will immediately rise over 30%. If you raise the price now, it may look expensive, but compared with its value 6 months later, it is still low. I looked at President Liu. More importantly, once the subway news breaks, many mass-market developments will launch nearby. If you stay at 85,000, you'll lose the advantage of being an exclusive community. The wealthy don't want to live beside commuters crowding the subway. The reception room was utterly silent. President Liu stared at me for a full minute, then made a call. Secretary Wang, contact Director Li at the Planning Bureau. Quietly ask about the Eastern New City subway plan. The 10-minute wait felt like 10 years. The phone rang. President Liu answered. As he listened, his expression grew increasingly grave. Finally, he said only, "Is confirmed? All right. Understood." He hung up and looked at me. "Join my company as Vice President of Marketing. 1 million a year. Will you come?" "1 million-year salary." I saw Su Hai's face flush red. His whole body froze. I still shook my head. "I'm not interested in employment. I want more time with my family." President Liu watched me for a while, then smiled bitterly. "Everyone has different ambitions, but for this project, I still want you as a consultant. Name your fee." I looked at Su Hai. Planner Su has solid fundamentals, and he already understands the proposal's core ideas. You can coordinate with him instead. Su Hai photo. He looked at me, with complete disbelief in his eyes. President Liu considered it, then finally nodded. "All right, I'll leave this project to both of you." After we left the company, Su Hai still seemed lost in a dream. He suddenly asked, "You rejected 1 million a year? Did you really infer the subway news yourself?" "The clues were all in the news," I said. "My family's fruit stall needs me." He fell silent for several seconds. His voice trembled slightly. "Do you understand what 1 million means? I worked 8 years to earn only half that. Brother, once this deal succeeds, you'll be the company's hero." I patted him. "Your road ahead will be much wider." I got in the car and left. In the rearview mirror, he remained where he stood, watching my departing figure, without moving for a long time. Su Hai came again at dinner. I raised my cup first, using tea instead of wine. "Brother, for all the terrible things I did before, I sincerely apologize." Xu Meng froze, her chopsticks suspended in midair. I knew what she was thinking. The old Chen Zuisheng only became more shameless. When had he ever apologized? Su Hai awkwardly looked away. Xu Meng glanced at him, then at me, and suddenly asked, "Brother, did you say something to him again?" I smiled. "Your brother only reminded me to work harder." Xu Meng put down her chopsticks and looked seriously at Su Hai. "I chose this man, and I chose this path. No matter how bitter the result, I'll bear it myself. If you truly care about me, stop saying things that put me in the middle." Under the light, her eyes held the stubbornness of never turning back once decided. Su Hai raised his cup and drained it. He sighed and said nothing more. He finished quickly and left. After seeing him out, I turned around. Xu Meng was watching me. "You're especially different today." "How am I different?" "I can't explain it." She tilted her head. "It just feels like a very long nightmare has finally ended." Late that night, I prepared the sofa as usual. Xu Meng came out holding a blanket and stopped at the doorway. She looked back at me. "Are you addicted to sleeping on the sofa?" She smiled with pursed lips, then turned and went inside. The door stayed open. Early the next morning, Xu Meng took Qianqian to see a new kindergarten, while I reviewed our accounts at home and planned our next step. Near noon, my phone suddenly rang. It was Xu Meng, her voice choked with tears. The background was chaotic. "Zuisheng, come to the Municipal People's Hospital now." Qianqian suddenly couldn't breathe. "She's in the emergency room." My head buzzed. I dropped everything and rushed out. The Xu family had already arrived at the hospital. The moment my father-in-law, Xu Zhengqi, saw me, he stormed over furiously. Chen Zuisheng, look how badly you've neglected the child. The doctor says this should have been found long ago. A nurse hurriedly stopped him. Family members, please remain quiet. My mother-in-law, Gu Manru, approached with red eyes, her voice trembling. The doctor says it's idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension, a rare disease. The current medicine only keeps her stable temporarily. She needs a specialized targeted drug. The imported medicine costs over 30,000 a month, and she must take it long-term. My heart felt brutally squeezed. Pulmonary arterial hypertension. How could this happen? Xu Meng threw herself into my arms and sobbed until her whole body shook. The doctor says she may have had it for a long time. The symptoms weren't obvious. It's my fault for not noticing. Sometimes she said she was tired. I thought she was just tired from playing. What use is saying that now? Xu Zhengqi's voice turned cold. Treatment costs money. The special medicine is over 30,000 a month. Can you afford it? Gu Manru looked at her daughter. Xiaoming, listen to your mother. Get divorced. Afterward, the Xu family will pay Qianqian's medical bills. Xu Meng suddenly looked up. Mom, what are you saying? Do you still want to suffer with him? Look at your child. Gu Manru began crying too. She cannot stop taking this medicine. If she does, her condition will deteriorate rapidly. Xu Meng stared at the tightly closed emergency room door, tears streaming endlessly, but she wiped her face hard and stood straight. Mom, I've already said it. I chose this man, and I chose this path. No matter how hard it gets, we'll bear it ourselves. Can you bear it?
Xu Zhengqi shouted angrily.
Over 30,000 every month, and no one knows how long she'll need it. I stepped in front of Xu Meng and faced Xu Zhengqi directly. We'll find a way to pay. You need not worry about it. Find a way? What kind of way? What can you possibly do? Xu Hai could not hold back. You rejected President Lu's million-a-year job. And now what? I have my own solution. Cut him off. Qianqian is our daughter. We'll take responsibility to the end. Xu Zhengqi stared at me for a long time, then suddenly sneered. Fine. You have pride. Then bear it yourselves. Let's go. The Xu family left. Xu Meng leaned against my shoulder and sobbed softly, her shoulders trembling non-stop. Don't be afraid. I gently patted her back. I'm here. But the medicine costs, she raised her tearful eyes. 30,000 a month. Money isn't the problem. I looked out the window. Take good care of Qianqian. Leave everything else to me. At the payment counter, I looked at the bank card in my hand. It held every cent we had earned by waking early and working late. But I knew, to cure our daughter, this amount was nowhere near enough. In my previous life, I built a 100 billion empire from nothing. In this life, for this family, I had to earn enough money immediately. In the hospital corridor, I searched my memory frantically for every possible way to make money fast. Futures were too slow. The stock market was too unpredictable. Stone gambling required connections. Then an extremely obscure memory suddenly became clear. A virtual horse racing section on an underground betting site had a flaw that advanced winnings. Someone once exploited it to take over 2 million in 3 days. The site noticed only during account reconciliation. The flaw itself was not complicated, but required precise timing. To encourage betting, the site displayed live odds during the virtual races. In the final 30 seconds of a race, when the outcome was nearly decided, the system calculated the likely winnings based on the live odds and added the projected prize to the user's available balance in advance. The key was, during those final 30 seconds, if the user took that virtual balance and placed a new bet on another event about to end, the system would actually approve it. The validation would pass. With proper execution, a tiny amount of real capital could leverage dozens of times more virtual funds through chained bets. When every event settled, as long as the final bet won, the profit became real. Simply put, imagine betting 100 at a casino. The dealer sees that you're about to win and pushes 1,000 in chips toward you early, saying, "These may soon be yours." You immediately take those 1,000 chips and bet them at another table, then win. The casino has no choice but to honor it, and I knew the exact operating window, the trigger conditions, and how to avoid risk controls. More importantly, at this point in time, nobody knew about the flaw yet. I checked the hospital corridor clock. 2:20 p.m. Then I turned and hurried out of the inpatient building. There was an old internet cafe near the hospital, filled with cigarette smoke. I took a computer in the farthest corner and opened what looked like an ordinary sports site. It displayed football fixtures and match information. Nothing seemed unusual, but I knew there was a hidden entrance, buried behind the public pages. A concealed portal opened only through a special sequence. After 3 redirects, I reached a crude interface, with only text and simple animations. Lucky horse racing. Each virtual horse race lasted 3 minutes. I took a deep breath. Step 1. Register a new account using a randomly generated username. Step 2. Deposit funds. The site supported several discrete third-party payment channels. I chose a method that split the deposit into small amounts. 5 minutes later, 5,000 yuan arrived. Account balance, 5,000.00. The time was 2:40 p.m. The first virtual horse race began. I bet 1,000 on horse number 3 to win. The odds were 2.5. With 40 seconds remaining, horse 3 climbed from 5th to 2nd. Then the available balance in the bottom right corner suddenly changed to 5,500. It had risen from 4,000 to 5,500. The system had taken my 1,000 yuan bet and added the possible 1,500 yuan profit to my balance in advance. But I did nothing. That was normal display behavior, not yet the actual flaw. The race ended. Horse 3 won by a narrow margin. The real profit settled at 1,500. My account balance became 6,500. The second race began at 2:45. I bet 2,000 on the exact top 2 horses. The odds were 3.2. With 30 seconds remaining, the system again displayed the projected winnings early. My balance jumped from 4,500 to 11,400. 4,500 plus 2,000 times 3.2. Now came the critical moment. With 25 seconds left in the race, I quickly switched to a virtual football market that was about to close, and bet the full 11,400 balance on a goal in the final 5 minutes. At odds of 1.8. The system approved it. Bet placed successfully. The flaw truly existed. The system treated the projected profit that had not yet settled as genuinely available funds. My heartbeat accelerated. The horse race ended. The exacta won. Profit, 4,400. The football match reached its end. In the 89th minute, a virtual player scored with a long-range shot. The withdrawal option appeared. The account balance instantly recalculated, adding the horse race profit and the football winnings. Final balance, 26,900 yuan. In less than 10 minutes, 5,000 had become nearly 27,000. But I did not stop. I knew the flaw could be exploited repeatedly. As long as I caught each event's final 30-second window, the virtual capital could snowball and grow exponentially. Even if a bet lost, it was mostly virtual principle being lost. The third round, then the fourth. My hands flew across the keyboard and mouse, while my eyes watched 3 event windows with different countdowns. Every move had to be precise to the second. At 3:21 p.m., after one event after another settled, I completed the final operation. The final account balance on the screen. The final balance was 726,800 yuan. Using 5,000 yuan in 1 hour, I had generated more than 140 times the return. I leaned back in the chair and stared at the number on the screen. My palms were drenched in sweat. I clicked withdraw. The site said large withdrawals required manual review. Funds would arrive within 2 hours. I erased all browsing history, shut down the computer and left. When I stepped out of the internet cafe, the sunlight felt dazzling. I raised a hand to shield my eyes and took a deep breath. 720,000. More than 700,000. It was still barely enough for Qianqian's illness. A cure would require even more money, but I knew someone would soon come to hand me more. When I pushed open the ward door, I heard a nurse's cold voice.
MXU.
The system shows only 5,000 yuan. The remaining deposit must be paid today, or we cannot continue the tests and medication. Xu Meng was nearly crying from anxiety. That's impossible. My husband paid 10,000 an hour ago. When she saw me enter, her voice suddenly stopped. Where is the money? Where is the other 5,000? I only paid 5,000. I looked into her eyes. I used the other 5,000 to bet on horse races. Xu Meng's expression shattered instantly. She staggered, as if all strength had been drained from her. Chen Zuisheng, that was Qianqian's life-saving money, and you gambled it away? She rushed at me and pounded my chest with her fists, sobbing in anguish. Are you even human? What about your oath? The nurse shook her head and sighed, her eyes full of contempt. I caught Xu Meng's wrist and lowered my voice. Meng, listen to me. I won with that 5,000. The withdrawal will arrive within 2 hours. Qianqian's medical expenses are covered for now. She stopped and raised her head, looking at me as if her heart had completely died. You're doing it again. You're lying again. aren't you? She pointed at me, her finger trembling violently. You know I hate your gambling more than anything. What happened to your oath? What happened to your promise? I stayed silent. Anything I said now would sound like an excuse. Give me 2 hours. I released her and looked at our pale daughter in the bed. 2 hours from now, I'll return with the money. Then I turned and left. Behind me came her muffled, despairing sobs. When I returned with hot porridge, Xu Meng was bent over the bedside as if asleep, but her trembling shoulders betrayed her. Qianqian was awake, her tiny body connected to tubes. When she saw me, she forced a weak smile. Daddy. Be good, Qianqian. I bent down and gently touched her little face. Daddy will defeat the illness and take you to the best amusement park. We'll eat cotton candy bigger than the clouds. Qianqian's eyes brightened as she whispered, I want to stay with mommy and daddy forever. Xu Meng lifted her head, her eyes bloodshot. She looked at our daughter's pleading eyes, then at me, and finally let out a long, exhausted sigh. She took the bowl of porridge. Go and do what you need to do. Her voice was hoarse. I'll stay here. I knew. This was the last bit of room she was giving me. I checked the time. Wait for me. I left the ward, without looking back. After leaving the hospital, I was about to head to the bank, when a black Mercedes suddenly stopped across my path. The door opened, and 2 expressionless men in black stepped out. Mr. Chen. Boss Gu would like to speak with you in the car. That was fast. I nodded and got in. The interior was spacious. A man in his 40s, wearing an elegant suit, sat opposite me. His features were not fierce, but rather refined. Gu Weidong. In my previous life, I had dealt with him many times, and even worked with him. Chen Zuisheng. He looked up at me. Quite skilled, aren't you? That lousy system of mine is watched by 7 or 8 programmers, and hasn't failed once in 3 years. Yet you punched a hole through it the moment you arrived. Tell me, how did you discover it? I leaned back and met his gaze. Boss Gu, you run a betting operation, but you're afraid of someone winning? The system had a flaw. That's your own problem. I won the money through my ability. Are you planning to deny payment? Gu Weidong narrowed his eyes. Just over 700,000. I'm not so poor a loser that I can't pay it. He smiled. You may take the money, but you cannot leave without paying any price. I knew he was probing my background. In my last life, I knew him extremely well, but I could not reveal every card now. I smiled. I won't take your money for nothing. I'll give you a piece of information. How about it? Gu Weidong raised an eyebrow. Let's hear it. It's about your father, Old Master Gu Chongqing. The jade ring in Gu Weidong's hand stopped turning. Has he recently had occasional chest tightness and numbness in his left shoulder and arm? My tone remained calm. Have him undergo coronary CT angiography immediately. Focus on the middle section of the left anterior descending artery. A routine exam cannot detect a non-calcified plaque. Gu Weidong's pupils contracted. He watched me for several seconds, then immediately made a call. Director Wang, please arrange an emergency heart examination for my father. Coronary CTA? Focus on the left anterior descending artery. Yes, right now. The car fell silent. 40 minutes later, the phone rang. Gu Weidong answered, and his expression changed sharply. After hanging up, the way he looked at me was completely different. The left anterior descending artery is over 85% narrowed. Any later and he might have died. Chen Zuisheng, who exactly are you? That isn't important. I met his gaze. My money and my safety. The funds will be released immediately. On my territory. Gu Weidong stared at me. No one will touch you. However, a man like you would not risk everything for only 700,000. You have something else to say, don't you? As sharp as expected. There is indeed another piece of information. I looked into his eyes. It's about a woman you've searched for over 10 years, and the child beside her, whose existence you probably never knew. Gu Weidong suddenly sat upright. All refinement vanished. His eyes filled with shock. What did you say? She married a middle school teacher in Suzhou and lives a quiet life. I lowered my voice. She has a daughter, 7 years old. 7 years old? Her birthday is June 17th. Gu Weidong's face turned pale. His fingers trembled slightly. That date. And that age. He understood. What do you want? His voice was hoarse. 5 million and the information is yours, Chong. Transfer it immediately. Gu Weidong turned and ordered. 10 minutes later, my phone vibrated with a bank deposit message. I sent him the detailed information already prepared on my phone. The transaction was complete. I opened the car door. My daughter is in the hospital. She needs absolute peace. Do not let any trouble reach her. Gu Weidong nodded heavily. As for the hospital, I'll arrange the best resources. The door closed, and the Mercedes drove away. I stood outside the hospital, with 5.72 million yuan now in my account. Qianqian's medical expenses were secured. I gripped my phone, and hurried into the hospital building. I rushed into the ward as fast as possible. When I opened the door, Xu Meng was gone. My father-in-law, Xu Jingqi, sat by the bed, his face dark with anger. Your daughter is this sick, and you, her father, are running around outside. I ignored him, walked to the bed, touched Qianqian's forehead, and asked quietly, "Where's mommy?" She said she had something to do, and asked me to stay here.
Xu Yanqi snort.
You and your wife are both quick to disappear. Neither of you has been here for hours. My heart suddenly sank. Xu Meng would never leave Qianqian at a time like this. Hours? I immediately called her. No answer. Xu Jingqi also sensed something was wrong. Why isn't Meng answering? Just then, a cleaner cursed in the hallway. These immoral people are posting surrogacy agency ads in the restroom again. How can they earn such money? Surrogacy. A terrifying thought instantly surged into my mind. Xu Meng wouldn't be that foolish. But the next second, I remembered her stubborn, red-eyed expression. She really would. I turned and rushed out of the ward. Where are you going? The hospital is still demanding payment. Xu Zhengqi shouted behind me. I've paid the medical fees. Watch Qianqian carefully. I sprinted into the women's restroom, ignoring the screams inside, and pushed open each stall. In the third stall, a crooked poster caught my eye. High-paid surrogate mothers, with 300,000 paid in advance. I called immediately. I'm looking for a surrogate. I lowered my voice and spoke coldly. I need a child urgently. Money is no issue. The woman on the other end became cautious. Sir, you have the wrong number. Stop pretending. I sneered. My wife cannot give birth. I want a boy, preferably with sex selection. After several seconds of silence, her tone became enthusiastic. Boss, you're well informed. We can arrange that, but the price? Money is no issue. Cut her off. But I want to choose the woman. No one who has done surrogacy before. I want someone completely new, preferably someone who has never given birth, young and healthy with good genes. We do not have a new candidate ready right now. The woman sounded troubled. Are you certain? There really isn't one? I raised my voice. She clearly froze. How did you know? I have my own sources. I answered coldly. Give me the address. I'll come inspect her now. If I'm satisfied, I'll pay double. Double? Even her voice changed. Boss, are you serious? I'm in a hurry. I glanced at my watch. I'll be there within 20 minutes. Keep the new candidate for me. If she has already signed a contract or started the process, then the deal is off. No formal contract has been signed. She only had a preliminary examination. Come over, boss. We'll wait for you. After hanging up, I rushed out of the hospital and hailed a taxi. Driver, take me to this address quickly. At the same time, I called the police and quietly reported the address, saying someone was suspected of illegal surrogacy. 20 minutes later, I stood in a rundown urban village and found an old building marked Domestic Services. I went straight to the third floor. The door opened a crack. A heavily made-up, middle-aged woman sized me up. Are you the boss who called? Where is she? I walked straight inside. In the lounge. The woman followed with a flattering smile. This candidate has excellent conditions. She's young, 28 years old. She has given birth to one daughter. Natural delivery, perfectly healthy. She urgently needs money, so the price is negotiable. When the door opened, Xu Meng was sitting on an old sofa, her hands tightly clutching the hem of her clothes. When she saw me enter, her eyes widened suddenly, and her whole body froze. This is her? I inspected her expressionlessly, as though examining merchandise. Stand up and turn around. When she rose, fear even appeared on her face. What do you think, boss? The woman asked obsequiously. Her face and figure are both good. She even has a bachelor's degree. I walked up to Xu Meng and looked at her face. She's too thin. Can she give birth to a son? We cannot guarantee the baby's sex 100%. But we can perform selection. The woman hurriedly explained. I need to be certain it's a boy. I said coldly, I can pay more. But if she gives birth to a girl, you take full responsibility. Boss, that risk is too great. Greater risk means greater profit. I turned and stared at the woman. I'll take this one. Name the price. We'll sign now. I'm taking her with me immediately. Right now? The woman froze. Boss, the process. I'll pay for expedited handling. I took a bank card from my pocket. Money is no issue, but I'm taking her now. The middle-aged woman's eyes darted around. Boss, that isn't how our rules work. If you take her away and something happens, then call whoever has authority.
Is there here?
Without blinking, or can none of you actually make decisions? Her expression shifted. Please wait a moment, boss. She left the room and closed the door. The moment it shut, Xu Meng rushed over and grabbed my arm. Are you crazy? We have to leave. We'll leave together. I gripped her hand. Trust me. Footsteps came from outside. The door opened. The middle-aged woman returned, with two muscular men behind her, and another man in a suit. He wore a tailored suit and gold-rimmed glasses. Boss, this is President Chen. President Chen sized me up. I hear you're in a hurry to take her away. Yes. Name your price. 800,000. All inclusive. Guarantee a boy. A 500,000 deposit. I'll transfer it now. I take her with me and pay the balance after pregnancy is confirmed. President Chen laughed. His smile widened. Boss, that isn't how this works. You pay the full amount now, and we'll deliver her to the place you specify. He adjusted his glasses, his smile carrying menace. Otherwise, you may not leave here. I narrowed my eyes. My money isn't so easy to steal. That depends on whether you can walk out this door. President Chen gave a signal. The two muscular men stepped closer. Just then, a police siren sounded faintly downstairs. President Chen's face changed sharply. You called the police? Why would I call them? Though, it seems your business isn't very clean. The siren rapidly drew nearer. A commotion erupted downstairs. President Chen cursed. Cripple him. We'll use the back exit. The two men lunged from both sides. I shoved Xu Meng hard into a corner, grabbed a chair and smashed it into the man on the left. Bang! The wooden chair shattered against his shoulder. He grunted and hesitated for an instant, but the other man's fist was already whistling through the air, straight at my temple. I hurriedly leaned aside. The fist grazed my cheekbone with a burning sting. Before I regained my balance, cold steel flashed. He had pulled out a switchblade and thrust it straight at Xu Meng. Her scream exploded in my ears. In that split second, I lunged forward and blocked her with my body. Thud! The blade sank into flesh, and intense pain erupted instantly. My left shoulder first went cold, then burned like fire. The thug never expected me to throw myself onto the blade, and froze for an instant. That instant was enough. My right hand seized his knife wrist, and my forehead smashed into the bridge of his nose. Bone cracked beneath his scream. He released the knife and staggered backward. Police! Don't move! Everyone on the floor. In that brief moment, the officers had already rushed upstairs. I pressed my bleeding left shoulder and stood in front of Xu Meng, raising my right hand. Officer, we're the victims. President Chen struggled on the floor, but the police pinned him down firmly. A young officer saw me covered in blood and immediately shouted into his radio, "We have an injured person here. Send an ambulance." Xu Meng rushed over, her trembling hands pressing around my wound. Large tears rolled down her face. Her voice broke apart. You're bleeding. There's so much blood. I leaned against the wall and forced a smile for her. With my uninjured hand, I gently touched her face. I'm fine. It's only a flesh wound. As long as you're safe, that's enough. When we left the police station, the sky was already dark. Xu Meng gripped my arm tightly, her fingertips cold and faintly trembling. When we reached an empty place, she stopped and looked up at me, her face covered in tears. How did you know I was there? How could you dare come alone? I reached out and gently wiped away her tears. Because you're my wife. And Qianqian is our daughter. If the sky falls, I'll hold it up. Don't worry. I've already paid Qianqian's hospital deposit. Xu Meng threw herself into my arms and sobbed, as if releasing every fear and grievance at once. I held her trembling body tightly and let her tears soak my clothes. There were no stars in the night sky, but our darkest moment had passed. Back at the hospital, a nurse treated my wound. The stab in my left shoulder needed over a dozen stitches. The doctor said a little deeper would have damaged a nerve. After the bandaging, I asked Xu Meng to return to our daughter. She hesitated, but had been away from Qianqian too long, and could not stop worrying, so she finally nodded. I sat in the treatment room chair and caught my breath. Just as I prepared to stand, my phone rang. It was a bank deposit message. Gu Weidong had transferred another sum, saying it was medical support for Qianqian. I checked the amount. It was enough. When I pushed open the ward door, Su Hai was making a call at the end of the hallway. Seeing me, his face darkened. He hung up and came over. Chen Zuisheng. He lowered his voice. Where did the 500,000 medical deposit come from? I won it betting on electronic horse races, I answered. He stared at me for several seconds, then sneered. You've gambled for years and never brought a cent home. Now that the child is this sick, you suddenly win that much? I did not respond. I think you borrowed it from President Liu. You pretended to be noble and rejected the high salary, then turned around and begged him for a loan. Let me make this clear. Don't expect the Xu family to shoulder this million-yuan debt. Then he turned and left. I remained where I was, watching his back disappear. For the next month, Qianqian remained in the hospital. Idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension was extremely rare. Domestic treatment could only maintain her with imported targeted drugs. Yet her condition was still slowly declining. Xu Meng and I took turns staying beside her. She covered the day, and I covered the night. When exhausted, we rested briefly on corridor chairs. When hungry, we ate the cheapest meals in the cafeteria. The Xu family never appeared again. I knew Xu Meng was hurting inside, but she never said it. Sometimes, when I woke in the middle of the night, I saw her bent over the bedside, holding Qianqian's little hand and staring blankly. 1 month later, the Xu family finally came. The doctor was examining Qianqian. After finishing, he told us, the current medication can only slow the disease, cannot reverse it. Over time, the burden on her heart and lungs will only increase. After listening, Xu Zhengqi asked only about money. The 500,000 is nearly gone, isn't it?
Xu Hai spoke coldly.
Have you decided how to repay it? The money wasn't borrowed, Xu Meng said. Not borrowed? Gu Manru interrupted. Did it fall from the sky? In front of everyone, Xu Zhengqi pointed at my nose and cursed. Nothing but lies. My daughter and granddaughter were ruined by you. I suppressed my anger. Dad, keep your voice down. Don't disturb the child. You have no right to call me Dad. Just then, the ward door opened, and the doctor entered with several specialists. We have news. The doctor looked at us. A top international cardiopulmonary team will soon conduct an advanced interventional procedure here, combined with gene-targeted therapy. By reconstructing pulmonary microcirculation and applying precise targeted regulation, there is a chance to reverse the disease at its root. He paused. Qianqian's indicators happen to meet the criteria. Xu Meng suddenly gripped my hand, her eyes turning red. But treatment must begin immediately. The first stage cost is 1 million yuan. I turned and left the ward. At the end of the corridor, I called Gu Weidong. Don't worry about the money, he said. I invited Professor Robert from Zurich specifically for this. He reviewed your daughter's case and says she's doing better than expected. The treatment should work extremely well. Thank you. I'm the one who should thank you. He paused. I found both the mother and daughter, Mr. Chen. I won't forget what you've done for me. After hanging up, I returned to the payment counter. When I came back to the ward doorway, I heard Xu Zhengqi inside. See that? The moment money is needed, he runs away. As long as you divorce him, the Xu family will pay. Xu Meng's voice was soft but steady. Dad, Mom, brother. Thank you for the offer, but we truly don't need it. The day before yesterday, Zuisheng deposited another 1 million. The ward fell silent for several seconds. A nurse entered to prepare for the procedure and casually added, the child's father just deposited another 1 million for follow-up treatment and imported targeted medicine. I stood at the doorway, watching Xu Zhengqi, Gu Manru, and Xu Hai freeze in place. The red light above the operating room was on. Xu Meng leaned against my shoulder, her body trembling slightly. I held her hand. Professor Robert is an authority on pulmonary hypertension. He has performed this procedure 27 times. Every case succeeded. Xu Hai walked over with a dark expression. Chen Zuisheng, how much did you borrow from President Liu? I looked up at him. My affairs are none of your concern. 2 million. Even selling the Xu family's house wouldn't cover it. He turned to Xu Meng. Little sister, tell me the truth. Xu Meng was about to answer when Xu Zhengqi strode over and pointed at my nose. Ask him. All he knows is lying and gambling. Then he turned to Xu Meng. Meng, Dad has 1 million in savings. As long as you agree to divorce, I'll transfer it to you immediately. But tomorrow morning, I'm investing it in a home for pension project led by Director Zhou. Gu Manru explained beside him. The annual return is at least 30%. It's an inside opportunity for retired officials. The contract runs 10 years. Afterward, the company returns the house intact, along with the investment profits. Director Zhou said, it's a national pilot program, with only a few places. We thought letting the money grow would eventually benefit all of you. I looked at Xu Zhengqi. Dad, in this model, You mortgaged the property to a third-party company for pension payments, correct?
Xu Meng paused
And looked disdainful. A former senior official personally guarantees it. It's a legitimate company, and lawyers reviewed the contract. What do you know? This is a new scam that has appeared in recent years. The so-called professional company is usually an empty shell, with only tens of thousands in registered capital. They will indeed pay several months of pensions on time. But by the time you discover the truth, both the house and money will be gone. Director Zhou is either being deceived too, or else, I left the sentence unfinished. Bullshit.
Xu Meng erupted.
With my lifetime of relationships and connections. Who are you, a gambler, to lecture me? There's a contract in black and white. Would the state not intervene? You're simply jealous. Dad.
Xu Meng suddenly stood,
her voice trembling. Take your project and leave. I don't want your money. Whether Qianqian lives or dies, I'll bear it myself. Xu Zhengqi's face turned livid. He pointed at his daughter but could not speak. Finally, he flung his arm aside. Fine. Don't regret it. Gu Manru sighed with red eyes. Su Hai seemed to want to speak, but the family turned and left. The area outside the operating room suddenly fell silent. Xu Meng collapsed onto a bench, tears silently sliding down her cheeks. I gently put an arm around her shoulders. For hours later, the operating light went out. The attending doctor came out, with a smile on his face. The procedure was a complete success. The child needs 48 hours of observation in the ICU. But the prognosis is extremely positive. Xu Meng's legs gave way, and I caught her in time. She covered her face, as tears poured through her fingers. But this time they were tears of joy. 2 months later, Qianqian met the requirements for discharge. The little girl's cheeks were much rosier. Although she still needed regular medicine and checkups, she could already run and jump again. To celebrate her new life, we booked a newly opened upscale steakhouse. While she was hospitalized, I had promised her that once she recovered, I would take her for the best steak. The steakhouse was elegant. Qianqian swung her little legs excitedly in her seat, while Xu Meng laid out her napkin. When all the dishes arrived, I was about to cut the steak, when a finely dressed young man walked past our table. He glanced over casually, and his gaze landed on Xu Meng. He suddenly stopped.
Xu Meng?
Surprise appeared on his face, then changed into an amused smile. He came closer and looked over Qianqian and me, lingering on Qianqian for an extra moment, before returning his eyes to Xu Meng. I heard you got married. And this gentleman is? Xu Meng's fingers tightened slightly. The man's name was Zhu Feng, the blind date candidate her parents had strongly favored years ago. Her body clearly stiffened when she saw him. Zhu Feng. Xu Meng's voice sounded unnatural. What a coincidence. Zhu Feng turned toward me and inspected me from head to toe. His scrutiny was unmistakable. He extended his hand. You must be Mr. Chen. Pleasure. Is this your daughter? She's already this big. I stood and shook his hand. He deliberately tightened his grip. I did not react, merely looking at him calmly. Since we've met by chance, you won't mind if we join you, right? Zhu Feng smoothly suggested. Then he introduced the elegantly made-up woman behind him. This is my old friend Xu Meng and her husband, Meng Meng. This is my girlfriend, He Huiping. He emphasized the words, old friend and girlfriend, a little too heavily. He Huiping's gaze quickly swept over Xu Meng, and finally settled on her clothes. A trace of superiority appeared on her face. She smiled. You must be Sister Su. What a coincidence. Let's sit together. Under the table, Xu Meng gently took my hand. I squeezed hers back, then smiled at He Huiping. Sister Su is much too polite. You look considerably more mature than my wife. He Huiping's expression froze. Zhu Feng ordered several expensive dishes, then looked at me. Where does Mr. Chen work now? Today's meal is on me. I run a small business of my own. I answered casually. A small business is good too. Very free. He turned to the waiter. Bring us a bottle of Montrachet White, the 2015 vintage. Let it breathe first. After fluently naming the wine, he looked at Xu Meng. Meng, I remember you rarely drank before, but this restaurant's white wine is excellent with seafood. You can try a little. He Huiping immediately agreed. Exactly. A Feng is very particular about food. That wine isn't cheap, is it? She seemed to ask Zhu Feng, but glanced towards Xu Meng. Zhu Feng acted casual. It's not bad. What matters is that it suits today's food. The wine arrived quickly. Following proper etiquette, the waiter poured a small amount into Zhu Feng's glass. For him to taste, Zhu Feng swirled it, smelled it, and took a sip. He savored it for a moment before nodding. It's fine. He performed the entire process very deliberately. As the waiter prepared to pour for everyone, I raised a hand to stop him and picked up Xu Meng's glass. I told the waiter, "Please replace this glass. It hasn't been chilled long enough. That will affect the Montrachet's fruit and mineral notes, especially with its relatively delicate body." The waiter froze, then quickly apologized and replaced it. I took the new glass, inspected it carefully again, and only then allowed him to pour. Zhu Feng's composed expression began to crack. Xu Meng looked at me in surprise, then carefully tasted a small sip. Zhu Feng cleared his throat. Mr. Chen is certainly particular about glasses, but Montrachet's regional character is really expressed through the elegance of Puligny and the fullness of Shisanya. Finding balance between them, I smiled faintly. This vintage is acceptable. However, if you really wanted a white burgundy with today's seafood, the Courtin Charlemagne from the neighboring estate would actually be a better choice. The 2014 vintage has a more complementary structure. Zhu Feng's face stiffened slightly, and he darkly changed the subject. I've run my own landscaping company for 2 years. We provide facilities for major property developments. The work is hard, but the income is decent. He raised 2 fingers and waved them. He Huiping immediately took over. A Feng is far too modest. It's much more than 2 million. You know Xingrong Group, right? Several of their luxury developments use our landscaping. She looked at Xu Meng, pretending concern. If you're thinking of buying a home, ask a Feng. He knows many developers and can definitely secure the lowest internal price. I saw Xu Meng press her lips together. Zhu Feng looked at her and waved generously. Huiping, don't say that, Meng. You really should replace your old home. Just ask whenever you need help. I can get an internal price, at least 100,000 below market. Xu Meng's fingers twisted beneath the table. I gently covered her hand. If we need a genuinely discounted unit, I have my own connections. Zhu Feng looked unconvinced. This isn't the time to act out of pride. I heard your finances are, well, rather tight. Saving over 100,000 is real money. Why sacrifice it for pride? He Huiping immediately joined in. Exactly. A Feng knows the developer's bosses very well. It only takes one phone call. The money saved could buy nutrition for your child. And the place you live now, well, we're sincerely thinking of you. Her gaze swept across Xu Meng's clothes. Xu Meng's face flushed red. She wanted to speak, but I gently pressed her hand beneath the table. I took a sip of water, as anger began rising inside me. Today was to celebrate our daughter's recovery, not to listen to their coordinated performance. I was about to send them away, Mr. Chen, when a pleasantly surprised voice came from behind. We turned, and saw Lu Xingrong hurrying over from the private rooms. With a sincere smile, I was somewhat surprised. I had seen his photo with the owner on the celebrity wall, but never expected to actually meet him. Chairman Lu. Zhu Feng sprang up, as if launched by a spring, knocking over his chair. With a loud clatter, his face filled with flattery, and he bent forward, extending both hands. Chairman Lu, what an incredible coincidence. I'm Zhu Feng from Fengjing Landscaping. At your company's appreciation banquet last year, I even toasted you. Do you remember me? As he spoke, he cast us a proud glance. Lu Xingrong frowned slightly, clearly unable to remember him, but his gaze quickly passed Zhu Feng and landed on me. Out of courtesy, Lu Xingrong still briefly shook his hand and said flatly, "Hello." It was only a brief handshake, but Zhu Feng looked as if he had drunk fine liquor. His cheeks flushed, and his posture straightened. Yet Lu Xingrong almost immediately withdrew his hand and strode around the frozen Zhu Feng toward me, extending his hand. Mr. Chen. What a coincidence. Since we last met, I've wanted to contact you, but feared disturbing your family responsibilities. Meeting you today must be fate. I stood and shook his hand. President Lu, long time no see. I saw Zhu Feng's eyes widen beside us. His body froze as if struck by lightning. The flattering smile had not yet left his face, and mixed with shock, making his expression almost comical. He Huiping did not know Lu Xingrong. She only saw her boyfriend being ignored, while I, supposedly a fruit seller, chatted warmly with this imposing man. She curled her lip and remarked loudly enough to hear, "Well, even fruit sellers discuss real estate now." How novel. The moment she spoke, the atmosphere turned cold. Lu Xingrong's smile disappeared. His sharp gaze swept toward He Huiping, then returned to me with a questioning look. I released his hand and answered calmly, They're old acquaintances of my wife. We happened to meet. They're very considerate. They heard we're buying a home and insisted on finding us an internal discount at your development. Lu Xingrong was highly perceptive and understood immediately. A smile returned to his face, but now carried smoothness and a hint of coldness. He looked at me and spoke loudly. My dear brother, listen to yourself. He patted my arm. With our relationship, if you buy one of my homes, why discuss a discount? His gaze shifted to the stunned Zhu Feng and He Huiping. His smile remained, but his tone held casual superiority. Brother, sister-in-law, and your little treasure. He looked affectionately at Qianqian. Choose any development and any unit you like. Just tell me. He waved grandly and declared firmly, I will give you one for free. The sentence exploded like thunder overhead. All color drained from Zhu Feng's face. His eyes nearly popped out, and his mouth hung open. His body swayed. He Huiping was completely stunned. She looked at Lu Xingrong, then at me, then at her boyfriend's terrified expression, unable to say a word. When Lu Xingrong brought us into the private room, 3 executives inside clearly froze. Allow me to introduce someone. Lu Xingrong was in high spirits. Mr. Chen Zuisheng, my benefactor. The 3 executives stood and nodded, though confusion was hard to hide. A benefactor this young, with his wife and daughter beside him.
Liu Xingrong personally poured metea.
Brother, thanks to your warning last time, Suehu Tiandi raised prices according to your strategy, and profits increased 30%. The board just decided to focus the next 2 years entirely on that district. I put down my teacup and said calmly, President Lu, the subway extension is confirmed, but Ninghai's focus over the next 5 years won't be the east. What? All 3 spoke at once. Marketing Director Wang frowned. Mr. Chen, why do you say that? We've done detailed research. That district has abundant land reserves and the subway advantage. It is clearly undervalued. Investment Director Zhou added. The municipal government report also says the city framework will expand eastward. The policy direction is explicit. Vice President Zhang said nothing, but doubt was clear in his eyes. Lu Xingrong leaned forward, waiting for my explanation. I met his gaze. Everything you've said is logical, but you missed one decisive variable, the anti-corruption campaign. The private room fell silent instantly. The new mayor transferred from the neighboring city's southern district, which experienced a political earthquake last year. If his first move isn't cleaning up official corruption, how will he establish authority? I tapped the table lightly. Eastern expansion involves too many land transfers, demolition payments, and construction tenders. The waters are too deep. During this sensitive period, he won't touch it. Instead, I said with certainty, he'll choose the direction with least resistance and fastest results. I pointed southwest, Old City renewal, and Riverside expansion. Property rights there are complicated, which actually means no one dares interfere recklessly. The infrastructure already exists, and so do Riverview resources. A small policy shift will immediately unlock value. But the East, I shook my head, is now a pressure cooker. Anyone who jumps in may be trapped under the anti-corruption lid, unable to move for 3 to 5 years. When I finished, not a sound could be heard. My words settled, and the room remained silent. The 3 executives' expressions had frozen. Lu Xingrong's hand stopped halfway to his tea. Shock slowly became realization in his eyes. He suddenly remembered a recent dinner, when an official had casually mentioned that restructuring the old city was also an option. I turned and met Xu Meng's gaze. Her eyes were wide and filled with surprise as she watched me. Politics and economics. Lu Xingrong murmured the phrase, then set down his cup heavily, and rose abruptly. He walked around the table, picked up the teapot, and personally refilled my cup. If you consider only economics, and ignore politics, Brother Chen, you've taught us an extremely important lesson today. I saw the 3 executives draw sharp breaths. When had Lu Xingrong ever been this humble? Brother Lu, you're exaggerating. I smiled. It was only an offhand thought. Don't blame me if I'm wrong. An offhand thought? Lu Xingrong shook his head. Those words are worth tens of billions. He sat back down, his eyes blazing, with intense focus. Brother, you've helped me enormously. I can't accept it for free. My promise outside still stands. Choose any home you want, and I'll give it to you. Under the table, Xu Meng suddenly squeezed my hand. There's no need to give us one. I shook my head. I'll buy it. Buy it? Which one do you want? Choose freely. I'll give you the lowest price. I smiled. I want a stall at Wanjiawi Wholesale Market in the Southeast District, and a small apartment in Wenxin Garden next door. 80 or 90 square meters is enough. Everyone froze. The Southeast District? That was only a supporting project, built to absorb a remote leftover parcel. It's low-end and barely profitable. You're joking, right, brother? Lu Xingrong frowned. That place is too remote. I'll give you a large Riverview apartment at Jinbi Coast. I still shook my head. I'm in the fruit business. The wholesale market suits me, and living next door will be convenient. Lu Xingrong stared at me for several seconds, then suddenly laughed. His smile held helplessness, but also admiration. Fine. If you insist on buying, I won't stop you. Then let's do this. He slapped the table. Choose whichever stall you want. At cost price, 100,000. Pay 1 cent more and I'll be angry. 100,000. That was practically free. I raised my cup. All right, brother Lu. Thank you. Our cups touched lightly. I could feel Xu Meng watching my face the entire time. She looked at me, then at the three executives still in shock. Her lips moved, but she ultimately said nothing. After arranging to inspect the shops with Lu Xingrong the next day, we headed home. Xu Meng first went to the fruit stall, since we planned to upgrade it into a wholesale supermarket. The scattered inventory needed to be sorted in advance. I carried Qianqian home first. As soon as we entered the apartment block, Aunt Huang stopped us while holding her grandson's hand. Oh, Qianqian. When you fought with Xiaobao last time, what did Grandma tell you? Children must behave. If you don't listen to Grandma, you'll get sick. Do you remember? Hearing that, anger shot through me. Do I not know whether my own daughter behaves? She became ill because she was naughty and disobedient? Nonsense. I looked down at Qianqian. The little girl clearly shrank backward. Qianqian, I spoke clearly. If anyone outside makes you uncomfortable, come home and tell Daddy. Daddy will protect you. Then I turned to leave. Hey, don't rush off. She followed. I heard Qianqian's illness cost a fortune. Are you selling the house? I stopped. Who told you that? Everyone's talking about it. If you're really selling, I'll buy it. We're old neighbors. Just don't ask too much. As she spoke, she actually reached into her grandson's filthy pocket and pulled out a candy toward Qianqian's mouth. Here, have some candy. Smack. I grabbed her wrist, took the candy and threw it away. The house isn't for sale. Stop listening to gossip. Then I turned and went upstairs. Her curses came from behind. Bah! A wastrel pretending to be proud. You deserve to stay poor forever. When Xu Meng returned and heard it was Aunt Huang, her expression darkened. She's the courtyard's most notorious gossip. Ignore her. We did not take it seriously, but never realized how much trouble a loose tongue could stir. The next evening, I was playing with Qianqian. When Xu Meng's phone rang, she answered, and after only a few words, her face changed. Mom, what did you say? Selling the house? That's not true, Mom. The call ended. She looked at me with a deep frown. My mother says, Aunt Huang ran into them at the supermarket and said we're planning to sell the house. My father is furious. I was about to answer when my phone rang. It was Lu Xingrong's secretary, confirming tomorrow's shop inspection. After hanging up, I saw Xu Meng watching me, as if wanting to speak. What's wrong? Nothing. She shook her head, then added, my father is extremely stubborn. If he believes Aunt Huang, he'll definitely do something. I held her hand. As for the house, everything will be clear after we finish tomorrow's paperwork. She nodded, but the worry between her brows remained. What I did not know was that, at that very moment, Su Zhengqi was searching his home for the property deed. Found it. He gripped the dark red certificate with a ruthless look. He wants this house? Then let him try. Gu Manru stood nearby, her eyes red. Old Su, are you really doing this? What if Meng Meng?
Xu Meng interrupt.
She's completely bewitched now. If Chen Zuisheng gets his hands on this house, the mother and daughter will truly have nowhere to live. He stuffed the deed into his coat and gritted his teeth. I'll handle it tomorrow. Mortgage it through the home for pension plan. Once the procedure starts, this house will have nothing to do with them, unless Chen Zuisheng leaves, and Meng Meng agrees to divorce. Otherwise, they won't live here again. Gu Manru opened her mouth, but ultimately said nothing. Outside, the night was heavy, and the apartment block lights went out one by one. At breakfast, Xu Meng seemed cheerful. I could feel her anticipation for viewing the shop. Qianqian swung her legs and asked, Mommy, will we have a huge fruit store someday? Yes.
Xu Meng answered barely.
Qianqian can eat anything she wants. Yay! The aroma of porridge mixed with fried eggs. Simple and peaceful, but not long afterward.
Bang! Bang!
Someone pounded urgently on the door. Xu Meng opened it. Xu Zhengqi and his wife stood outside, faces dark. Dad, Mom, why are you? Why? Did we interrupt your plans to sell the house? Xu Zhengqi strode inside and glared straight at me. Sell the house?
Xu Meng froze.
Gu Manru pointed at me with red eyes. Chen Zuisheng, are you unable to repay your debts and now planning to sell the house? Have you no shame? I put down my chopsticks. Dad, Mom, you've misunderstood. I don't owe money, and I won't sell the house. Shut up. Xu Zhengqi cut me off sharply. Has a single truthful word ever left your mouth? He turned to Xu Meng and raised his voice. You must divorce him. Immediately. He owes 2 million. And is already selling the house. If you don't divorce, do you want Qianqian sleeping on the street? Xu Meng became anxious. Mom, you've misunderstood. None of this is real. Who told you such nonsense? Who needs to tell us? Gu Manru began crying. The whole neighborhood knows. Your mother is worried about you. Divorce him. Come back to us. We'll leave you the house and cover the medical expenses. I won't divorce. Anger entered Xu Meng's voice. We know how our life is going. We don't need you to decide. What do you know?
Xu Zhengqi rao.
You're completely bewitched. Give me a clear answer today. He widened his eyes and stared at Xu Meng, word by word. This marriage, will you end it or not? Xu Meng bit her lip without speaking. I won't. Fine. His chest heaved. Then I'm taking back this house. Whether you're rich or poor, has nothing to do with the Xu family. We'll act as if we never had a daughter. Those final words pierced Xu Meng like an awl. I saw her sway, her face turning pale. Tears filled her eyes, but stubbornly refused to fall. She looked at her father's twisted face, and at her mother crying without daring to meet her gaze. Then she wiped her eyes. Her voice trembled, but remained clear. I won't divorce. If you want to sever ties, go ahead. We won't live in this house anymore. We'll move out today. Xu Zhengqi's eyes widened, as if seeing his daughter for the first time. Fine. You've got nerve. He shook with rage. Tomorrow, I'm taking back the house. Then he grabbed Gu Manru and turned away. Gu Manru stumbled and looked back. How did you become like this? Your father is doing this for your own good. Xu Meng shouted at her, retreating back. He said he wanted to sever ties. He said he wanted the house back. I agreed. Isn't that being obedient? Gu Manru choked, her expression ugly. You're bewitched by that man surnamed Chen. You don't even want your parents anymore. I'll act as if I never gave birth to you. The door slammed shut. A few seconds later, Xu Meng threw herself into my arms, and her suppressed sobs poured out. How could they say those things? She cried until her whole body shook. I held her and gently patted her back. Qianqian hugged her mother's leg and cried softly, Mommy, don't cry. When Xu Meng finally calmed down, I wiped away her tears and looked into her reddened eyes, then surveyed the cramped, dilapidated room. Living here forever isn't right. We should have a home of our own. But she looked up at me. Don't worry about the money. I held her hand. Let's go see the shop. She nodded, then found a light blue dress in the bedroom. I recognized it as the best garment she had bought since marriage. She rarely dared wear it. Watching her hold up that old dress made my heart sting. There was still over 3 million in the bank. It was time to buy her and our daughter something decent. Let's go. Xu Meng changed into the dress and smiled at me. Let's go see our grand venture. We went downstairs and had just reached the roadside when a car horn sounded twice beside us. We turned. The window of a black Mercedes lowered, revealing Lu Xingrong's smiling face. Brother, sister-in-law, get in. I paused slightly, then smiled. This Lu Xingrong had not even brought a driver. He had actually come personally. The car headed toward the southeast district. On the way, Lu Xingrong chatted. Brother, Wanjiawi was originally built to use up an awkward leftover parcel. Its location is remote, neither new city nor old city. He turned onto a somewhat worn road. This area is called the resettlement district. Many people displaced from the old city were relocated here. The roads are wide and the buildings new, but services have not caught up, and there is no subway yet. I looked out the window. Once people settle here, they must live. Demand will gradually emerge. I knew clearly that, because of the resettlement, this area would become, over the next few years, one of Ninghai's strongest centers of grassroots economic energy, and one of its busiest hidden cores. Wanjiawi, as the first major development here, and the largest comprehensive wholesale market, would become a massive magnet. Its storefronts looked unimpressive now, but would soon become impossible to obtain. They might not support 3 generations, but for our family of 3, a lifetime without financial worry would be more than easy. The car stopped outside the market. Xu Meng looked at the empty parking lot and the quiet entrance, then frowned and whispered, Zuisheng, can this place really work? Lu Xingrong said sincerely. I still have several small shops on Binjiang Road's pedestrian street. The location is absolutely prime. I can arrange one for you. I shook my head. Binjiang Road's consumer profile doesn't suit our business. This place is good. It may look deserted now, but it will become unbelievably popular later. Lu Xingrong kept smiling, though doubt showed in his eyes. I casually added, Brother Lu, don't rush to sell your shares in Wanjiawi. If any minority shareholder wants cash, buy them out. In the future, across the southeast district, Wanjiawi will be the golden goose. Every inch will be worth gold. Every inch of land will become priceless. Lu Xingrong's eyes sharpened. Brother, are you serious? I met his gaze. Whether it's true or not depends on whether you're willing to believe me. Lu Xingrong said nothing more. He surveyed the empty market surroundings, deep in thought. Let's go inside. His hearty manner returned, and he led us in. When the management staff saw Lu Xingrong, they jogged over. Chairman Lu, show us the vacant storefronts, especially the best locations. The manager eagerly led the way to a prime spot near the main entrance. Chairman Lu, Mr. Chen, look at this unit. He pointed to a storefront half again as large as the others. This is one of our largest units. The location is excellent, spacious, with great display visibility. Any business would look impressive here. The unit was indeed good, bright and open. Lu Xingrong looked at me. Brother, do you like this one? Xu Meng's eyes brightened, but waited for my decision. I shook my head. Not this one. What? The manager froze. This is the best location in the market. I shook my head and looked deeper inside. Let's check near the side entrance. The manager looked confused. There is much less foot traffic there. It's remote. Lead the way. We reached the northwest side entrance. Near the delivery lane and edge of the parking lot, there were few pedestrians, and most storefronts along the side entrance were vacant, their windows covered in dust. My gaze landed on an unremarkable unit. It did not directly face the side entrance, but recessed slightly inward, with a load-bearing pillar beside it. This one, pointed. This unit? Xu Meng could not help asking. She looked at the quiet surroundings, then at the storefront hidden behind the pillar, her face full of confusion. Lu Xingrong also frowned. Brother, this location is too remote. The light is affected, and the pillar blocks visibility. Why don't we look farther ahead? No need. I spoke firmly. This is the one. Why here? Xu Meng asked softly. I lowered my voice, because the feng shui is good. Feng shui? I pointed at the load-bearing pillar. Look at this pillar. In feng shui, it represents a stable mountain behind us. The recessed storefront gathers energy and shelters it from wind. Wealth enters and does not easily escape. Then I pointed to the delivery lane outside. The moving vehicles there represent motion, while our place is stillness. Motion and stillness combined create endless vitality. Xu Meng listened in complete amazement. Lu Xingrong did not know whether to laugh or cry, and stopped persuading me. Fine. If brother likes it, then this is the one. He told the manager, prepare the contract for this unit. Right away. He did not even return to the office, but had the manager bring the agreement to the Mercedes. There in the car, Xu Meng and I signed the lease, a renewable 30-year term, for a total rent of 100,000 yuan. The price was basically a gift. Holding the contract, Xu Meng showed her most relaxed smile of the day. Zuisheng, where do we go now? Now that the shop is settled, let's look at nearby homes. If we find a suitable one, we'll buy it. Buy a home? Xu Meng's eyes lit up again. Yes, buy a home. Lu Xingrong joined in. If brother wants a house nearby, that's easy. Yujingtai and Southeast Pearl were developed by us or our partners. Choose whichever you like, and I'll arrange the lowest price. I shook my head. We don't need those. Let's look at Wenxin Garden. Wenxin Garden? Lu Xingrong paused. That was a resettlement repurchase project from several years ago. It sold out and was delivered long ago. Only resale units circulate now. I understood his meaning. He could control prices on new developments, but not directly interfere with second-hand prices. I smiled. I know. New or old doesn't matter. Only the location does. Lu Xingrong made one call, and within 15 minutes, a white business van arrived. The door opened, and a man in his 40s, with a slight belly, stepped out. Chairman Lu, why did you come personally? He jogged over, with both hands extended, then turned to us. My name is Zhou Fulai, from Fulai Real Estate. Anything Chairman Lu asks is my responsibility. Lu Xingrong nodded lightly. Old Zhou, Mr. Chen is my brother. He wants to see homes in Wenxin Garden. Do you have anything suitable? Yes. Of course. Zhou Fulai patted his chest. Since Chairman Liu has spoken, I'll waive the agency fee. Consider it making a friend. 4 units were listed in Wenxin Garden. We viewed them one by one. The first 3 were ordinary. The last one was on the top floor. As the door opened, sunlight flooded toward us. It was unfinished, with concrete floors and white plastered walls, but bright and clean. Xu Meng walked to the end of the living room and suddenly exclaimed. Outside was a terrace, more than 60 square meters. Zhou Fulai came over to explain. Mrs. Chen, technically this terrace is common property, but look at the layout. There is only 1 unit on the top floor. No outsider can reach it without passing your home. If you enclose the entrance, it effectively becomes your private garden. Xu Meng said nothing. She simply stood in the sunlight and gazed across the space.
He walked over.
If we enclose this area, we can build a pergola there and grow climbing roses, and make flower beds here for roses and hydrangeas. A wicker table in the southeast corner, with 2 chairs. On summer evenings we can drink tea and eat watermelon, while watching the stars. Xu Meng turned, and looked at me without speaking. Her eyes quietly reddened. The apartment was 120 square meters. With the terrace, usable space reached 180. I looked at her. Do you like it? She did not answer immediately. She turned back and stared for a long time, then nodded gently. Lu Xingrong immediately said, Brother, this unit is settled. Don't worry about renovation. I'll handle it. He waved broadly. This development was built by our company. We still have all the drawings. I'll have the terrace enclosed, open a door from the living room, build a spiral staircase outside, and add a glass dome above. The materials are already in our warehouse. They'll be perfect for you. Xu Meng asked, how much would that cost? Oh please, Lu Xingrong laughed. Sister-in-law, don't mention money to me. This little renovation is effortless. He had clearly decided I was worth befriending, and was deliberately strengthening the relationship. I did not pretend to refuse. All right. Thank you, Brother Liu. As Zhou Fulai prepared to finalize the unit, President Zhou, I turned to him. I'll take all 4 apartments. What? What did you say? All 4? Zhou Fulai froze. Xu Meng suddenly turned, and stared at me in disbelief. Lu Xingrong was surprised too. Brother, do you think this is too small? I have a 300 square meter villa at Yujingtai. Just take it. No need. I smiled and waved. Brother Liu, I truly like this location. I looked outside. It's close to Wanjiawi, within walking distance, and the kindergarten is next door. Qianqian's school and Mengming's business will both be convenient. Xu Meng tugged my sleeve and whispered, but we don't need 4 apartments. We may still have over 3 million. I took her hand. Don't worry. We won't lose money. She opened her mouth, but swallowed her concern. I turned to Zhou Fulai. President Zhou, prepare contracts for all 4. Paying cash for all 4 cost just over 2 million. More than 1 million remained in the account. Enough to launch and operate the shop. The contracts were signed smoothly. Moving went even more smoothly. With one call from Lu Xingrong, a small truck arrived in half an hour. With 3 young movers, they finished before noon. The top floor needed renovation, so we temporarily moved into a 5th floor unit. The previous owner had barely lived there. After a simple cleaning and new curtains, it was bright and spotless. Xu Meng placed her years-old pot hose on the windowsill. Qianqian removed her shoes and ran across the new floor, darting from room to room, like a joyful sparrow. Mommy, is this room mine? Daddy, are we living here from now on? Xu Meng sat on the sofa Lu Xingrong had newly sent. He called it a warehouse sample, but it was brand new, still wrapped in plastic. She looked around and watched our daughter running happily, her expression dazed. Only yesterday, she lived in a dark, damp old apartment. That morning, she had fought bitterly with her parents, and now, she sat in a spacious, bright new home, with a shop registered in her name, and 4 apartments bearing both our names. The top floor unit with a terrace was waiting to become our sky garden. It happened so fast that it felt unreal. Sunlight poured through the windows and reflected in her slightly wet eyes, like scattered sparks. Seeing my wife's emotion, in that moment, I felt the 2 million had been worth every cent. 4 apartments for 2 million. I knew exactly how valuable this purchase would become. 1 year later, Ninghai's education landscape would undergo an earthquake-level reshuffling. A retired senior official from Ninghai was about to leave an important post in the capital. He had been reserved his entire life, but this one time, he personally requested to leave a school. on the land where he was born, not merely lending his name, and not just donating a building. He would truly bring one of the capital's finest educational resources. North China Affiliated Primary School to Ninghai, the branch campus site, would be the empty land beside Wanxin Garden. For the first intake of the Ninghai branch, families across the city would fight desperately, and the school district boundary would happen to include all of Wanxin Garden. Overnight, this despised resettlement community would transform overnight. It would become Ninghai's hottest elite school zone property, with prices soaring like a rocket. The old residents who had received units here as compensation would accidentally become wealthy a second time. Some could sell one apartment and fund a Shanghai down payment for their son. Others could turn the old homes they had lived in for decades into cash and travel the world in retirement. For those 2 years, all Ninghai discussed Wanxin Garden. Some were envious, some jealous, some regretted not buying, and others cursed while stamping their feet. Every reaction existed, and I now owned 4 units. When prices reached their peak, I could sell 3 at the right moment and keep 1 to live in. By then, we would have far more than lifelong security. Even if Meng lay around from this day forward, she could live comfortably for the rest of her life. Of course, if I wanted to earn more, with my information and capital, I could sweep up several nearby communities too, but there was no need. After being reborn, I gradually understood one thing: money can never be fully earned. In my previous life, I exhausted myself, building 100 billion fortune from nothing. But what did I have in the end? In this life, enough money was enough. My daughter's smile, my wife's gaze, and peaceful meals together as a family. These were what I truly treasured. Su Hai sat in his car for nearly 20 minutes, his phone growing hot in his palm. Finally, he started the engine. His father had shouted so fiercely on the phone. If he truly did not come, this family might never recover. The car twisted through several streets and stopped below the familiar apartment block. He took a deep breath, then went upstairs and knocked. No one answered. He knocked again, but still nothing. He ran to the alley and found the fruit stall completely cleared. Even the old electronic scale was gone. The vegetable seller next door leaned out and recognized him.
Oh hat, Xiao Su.
Looking for your sister? Yes, my sister and her family. They moved out at noon. The auntie spoke loudly. A large truck came. Several young men banged around and emptied the place in no time. I was wondering, after living there over 10 years, how could they move so suddenly? Su Hai's head buzzed. Moved? Where did they go? How would I know? The auntie shook her head. Didn't your sister tell you? Su Hai did not answer. He stood before the empty fruit stall, gripping his phone without moving for a long time. I learned all this later from fragments, when Xu Meng received a phone call. That evening, her phone rang. She listened for a few moments, and her expression changed. Without speaking, she handed me the phone. I took it, and heard Su Jingqi's voice, strong and self-righteous. Chen Zuisheng, listen. That apartment was assigned by my work unit. The title is in my hands. I've already invested it in the Home for Pension project. I'll process the paperwork tomorrow. Unless you divorce Meng, you'll never live there again. I held the phone silently for 2 seconds, then said, Dad, we've already moved out. The other end was silent for 2 seconds too. Moved out? Yes. We moved at noon. The apartment is empty. You may take it back whenever you like. Another silence followed. Then the call ended. I returned the phone to Xu Meng. She looked at me, her eyes red, but did not cry. Her voice trembled slightly. They really invested the house. Yes. She lowered her head and gripped the phone, without speaking for a long time. Then she looked up at me and forced a small smile. Forget it. We weren't going back anyway. I nodded and drew her into my arms. Our fruit wholesale supermarket at Wanjiawi opened after renovation. Business was lukewarm during the first month. Sometimes Xu Meng looked at the empty store, and anxiety flashed in her eyes. I was not worried, not at all. We still had money in the account. The shop was ours, and required no rent. The top-floor home was still being renovated. Life is lived one day at a time, not rushed through one day at a time. A month later, Lu Xingrong called to say the renovation was complete. We went to inspect it. The moment the door opened, Xu Meng froze completely. The wall between the living room and terrace had been removed. Lu Xingrong had truly installed a floor-to-ceiling folding glass door. It was fully open now, and sunlight poured in from the terrace, filling the home with gold. The terrace had transformed. The concrete was covered with weatherproof wood. Flower beds had been built in the corners, with climbing roses and blue plumbago. A pergola had already been erected. The vines had not yet covered it, but green shoots were already climbing. A round wicker table stood in the southeast corner, with 2 chairs. A rustic vase on the table even held several hydrangeas. A glass dome covered half the terrace, clear and full of sunlight, while protecting it from rain. Xu Meng slowly walked inside. She looked for a long time, then covered her mouth, and her eyes turned red. Qianqian came running in with a scream of delight. The little girl had been downstairs, looking at a newly planted apple tree with Lu Xingrong's assistant. When she turned and found her parents gone, she ran upstairs on her short legs. The moment the door opened, she froze. Then she raced into the living room and spun around, then ran onto the terrace and spun again. The apple tree, pergola, round table, and glass roof each earned a loud wow. "It's so beautiful here." I watched the mother and daughter, and suddenly all those 10 billion contracts and massive mergers from my last life, all those brilliant moments beneath the spotlight, felt less valuable than 1/10,000th of this moment. And good news arrived one after another. 2 months later, the fruit wholesale supermarket that had remained quiet suddenly exploded in popularity. It began with Xu Meng's live stream. "The idea was mine," I said. "Meng, every day new customers come through this store. Why not try live streaming? You don't need to shout or sell aggressively. Just set up a phone and film how you normally sell fruit. Arrange inventory and chat with customers." Xu Meng was confused. "Live stream? Me? I don't know how to do that." "You don't need any special skills," I said. "Just be yourself." I bought her 2 outfits. Not flashy streamer clothing, just linen shirts and plain aprons, with her hair casually tied back, clean and fresh. We used no strange lighting or filters, only one warm fill light shining across the fruit display. The background was our stall at Wanjiawi. On wooden shelves, seasonal fresh fruit was stacked neatly. The handwritten price tags were crooked, because Qianqian had written them. During the first week, only 3 to 5 people watched on average. Xu Meng did not rush. When no one spoke, she quietly arranged stock, occasionally smiling at the camera and saying, "The strawberries are very sweet today. The blueberries just arrived." In the second week, one evening, she was scrolling on her phone and saw blueberry farmers in a neighboring province unable to sell their crop. They sat in the fields sighing helplessly. Xu Meng watched the clip several times. The next morning, she called a supplier and bought 500 jean outright. She did not turn it into a publicity stunt. She simply displayed the blueberries during the stream and casually said, "These blueberries are delicious. Farmers have it hard. We should help when we can." That evening, hundreds of viewers suddenly poured into the stream. "Beautiful. The streamer is gorgeous. Did she really buy them to help farmers? So kind. Already ordered. Support an honest seller." Xu Meng was stunned and answered clumsily, her face turning red. The next day, the platform started recommending her stream. Once the farmer support tag appeared, traffic poured in like a floodgate had opened. By the 3rd day, orders began flying in, not one by one, but page after page. The order printer ran from morning until night, whirring without stopping. It wasn't only online. The physical store exploded too. The main entrance of Wanjiawi closed for roadwork. Construction began at the front gate. The municipal pipeline network was being upgraded. The posted schedule said 8 months. With the main gate sealed, vehicles could not enter. Customers who normally visited the main street shops all flooded toward the north side entrance. And the north entrance was exactly where our store stood. Delivery trucks lined up outside our door, some unloading in front, while others loaded behind. Mangoes had barely reached the shelves when wholesalers arrived with order slips. "Boss, 5 more boxes of golden mangoes. Any Shine Muscat grapes left? Give me 10 cases. Cherries. Can the cherries be cheaper? I'm buying a lot." In only one day, Xu Meng and I were overwhelmed. Forget eating. We could only drink water between tasks. When we got home, Xu Meng collapsed against the sofa, too exhausted even to brush back her hair. The next day, I quickly asked Lu Xingrong to recruit 5 people. Only then did we catch our breath. "Brother, I found everyone you need." Lu Xingrong's voice boomed over the phone. I wiped my hands and held the phone against my ear. "Brother Lu, thank you. When I handle something for you, I know exactly what you need." He began listing them. One truck driver, a military veteran, with 8 years of heavy truck experience, and no accidents on his Class A license, plus 2 young women. One studied e-commerce, and worked at an MCN agency, so she understands platform traffic. The other studied media, with a pleasant appearance and sweet voice. She can assist in the live stream chat. He lowered his voice. Brother, I truly admire you. Seriously, how did you know the main entrance would close for construction? Did Feng Shui really tell you? I smiled. Brother Lu, you work in real estate. Whether Feng Shui is useful, you should know better than I do. The phone went silent for half a second. Then he burst into hearty laughter. Exactly. Some things exist if you believe. Brother, I truly admire your vision. I did not explain further. The main gate closure, an 8-month underground pipeline project, were facts I knew in advance. In my previous life, this exact construction turned Wanjiao's north gate into the main entrance. The once quietest corner was trampled into a golden location by vehicles and crowds. A feng shui master even came later and pointed at the pillar by the north gate, calling it the dragon pillar that controlled water, and the neighboring unit a hidden nest that gathered wind. The story became almost mystical. I had now captured that geographic advantage, but even I had not fully expected Xu Meng's livestream to become this popular. Beautiful, natural-faced farmer supporter. The label spread everywhere and orders climbed fast. Domestic consumption and rural revitalization became the platform's favorite themes. Xu Meng matched every label the platform wanted to promote. Traffic poured toward her like an open dam. Sometimes during a quiet moment, she sat beside the shelves in a daze. Zuisheng, I calculated the accounts again today. Last month, online and offline revenue totaled 1.37 million. The profit was 210,000. Her expression looked unreal. Sometimes when I wake in the morning, I stare at the ceiling and wonder whether this is a dream, and when I wake up, I'll still be in that old apartment block. Qianqian asleep against the wall, and you not yet home. She did not continue. I held her hand. It's not a dream, and even if it is, it's a dream we earned ourselves. She looked up, her eyes slightly red. I needed to redirect my wife's attention. Well, making money isn't our most important task now. She turned to look at me. I said, Qianqian has a hospital checkup next month, and kindergarten has started assigning homework. Xu Meng was silent for several seconds. You mean I spend too little time with her? I mean we no longer lack money. I looked into her eyes. What we lack is time to watch her grow. She took a deep breath. I know, but I can't stop. Sometimes I feel everything will disappear if I pause. It won't disappear, I said with a smile, but she suddenly frowned and said seriously, Qianqian starts primary school next year. The nearest public school has very average teaching quality. The good city schools either require the right district or expensive selection fees, and city center schools own homes. She spoke faster and faster, as if pushed forward by an invisible force. No, I still need to earn more. Watching her like this, I did not know whether to laugh or cry. Meng, relax. Our daughter is blessed. Blessed people don't need to rush. She froze, clearly not understanding. I did not explain yet. The North China affiliated primary school news could not be revealed now. The timing was not right. Once the announcement became official, half of Ninghai would go mad. The fruit wholesale supermarket kept snowballing, growing larger and larger. The company registration and tax filings were completed. I chose the name, Mengxing Fruit Industry. When Xu Meng saw the business license and the 2 characters of our names together, her lips curved upward. Now we're official. I suggested raising employee salaries. She nodded and moved them up 1 tier. The store began running much more smoothly. At last, neither of us had to stay there every day, especially in the livestream room. The young women learned quickly. Xu Meng only appeared at scheduled times, but every time she came online, the comments exploded. The nickname, Fruit Beauty, appeared from nowhere and quickly spread. One afternoon, Xu Meng's phone rang. After hanging up, she told me, the old market committee says I can collect my refunded deposit. How much? 2,000. I laughed. That's not even half a day's earnings now. We still can't leave it behind. Why let the committee keep it? She rolled her eyes at me and was already changing shoes. 20 minutes later, Xu Meng stood at that familiar yet distant alley entrance. The small fruit stall had changed owners. With a bright new signboard, she watched for several seconds, then shook her head and walked to the committee office. She told me all this after returning. Inside the committee office, Director Zhou saw her and greeted her with completely different enthusiasm. After completing the paperwork, Director Zhou kept chatting with her and asked where we lived now.
Xu Meng answered.
Wenxin Garden beside Wanjiawi. Director Zhou's eyes widened instantly. Wenxin Garden? You live in Wenxin Garden?
Xu Meng froze.
Why? Director Zhou did not answer. She turned and pulled out a document, then slapped it down before her. It was a copy of an official red header notice. The title was very long, but Xu Meng immediately caught several keywords. North China Affiliated Primary School Ninghai Branch, Site and District Allocation. Her eyes moved down to one line. Wenxin Garden is included in this school's enrollment zone. There was smaller print below. The release date was 3 days earlier. What does that mean? Xu Meng did not understand at first. Director Zhou explained excitedly. Your neighborhood is now a school zone property. North China Affiliated Primary came from the capital. It is Ninghai's best school district. No one wanted those shabby Wenxin Garden apartments before. But guess the current price per square meter. Go on, guess. Xu Meng opened her mouth, but made no sound. Director Zhou raised 2 fingers. 130,000. And buyers still can't get one. She assumed Xu Meng rented there and looked regretful. Oh dear. If only you had bought an apartment there earlier. Renting merely pays the landlord's mortgage. Now the owners have made a fortune. Think about it. Any 100 square meter unit is worth over 10 million.
Xu Meng froze.
Over 10 million. Wenxin Garden was worth 130,000 per square meter. The community where she owned 4 apartments. For units. She told me later that her legs went weak at that moment, and she slowly sat down while holding the desk. Director Zhou was startled. What's wrong? Why are you so pale? Are you feeling unwell? Xu Meng shook her head and opened her mouth, her voice floating. Sister Zhou, how much did you say Wenxin Garden costs now? 130,000. Why? Xu Meng said nothing. She sat there blankly, staring at the document on the desk, without moving. Then she called me. My phone vibrated. While I was checking invoices at the store, the screen showed wife. When I answered, there was no sound. Meng Zuisheng, Wenxin Garden, is worth 130,000 now. I paused. The North China Affiliated Primary Branch is next door, and the district includes us. 130,000 per square meter. I leaned against the shelf, genuinely surprised. In my previous life, the announcement came a year later. This time, it was over half a year early. Come back first. We'll visit the agency. Okay. She answered, then paused. Zuisheng, when you bought 4 apartments, did you know something? I smiled. How could that be possible? If I had known in advance, I would have borrowed money and bought the entire community. Why would I still run a fruit store? The other end was silent for several seconds. Then she softly said yes, and ended the call. She hurried back, but someone else arrived first. A black Mercedes pulled directly before the shop. Lu Xingrong strode inside. Brother, you've heard about Wenxin Garden becoming school zone property, right? I put down the invoice. I just heard. I was away on business and came straight here after landing. He walked up to me and lowered his voice. Brother, tell me honestly, did you know about this policy beforehand? I smiled leisurely. Brother Lu, if I could predict school zone policy in advance, why would I run a fruit business? Lu Xingrong stared at me for several seconds, then gave a short laugh. Brother, many people have good luck, but none are as accurate as yours. I smiled without answering. Xu Meng's face was still flushed when she returned. The 3 of us went straight to Fulai Real Estate. Only upon arriving did we notice something strange. A huge crowd packed the entrance, nearly bursting through the doors. Inside was even more crowded. Wenxin Garden, do you have any units left? Any layout is fine. I'll pay cash. Zhou Fulai squeezed his way outside, his forehead covered in sweat. When he saw me, his eyes brightened, and he hurried over. Mr. Chen, you're here. The nearby customers stared. Why was the agency owner greeting this man? Like his own father? I smiled and glanced around the busy agency. President Zhou, business is excellent. Thanks to you. Zhou Fulai bowed repeatedly and led us into a small reception room. Mr. Chen, are you here to sell apartments? Zhou Fulai's eyes lit up. In Wenxin Garden? Yes. Which units? Xu Meng pressed her lips together. The 5th floor one, and the 3rd floor one. We'll keep the top floor for ourselves, and hold the other one for now. Zhou Fulai nodded repeatedly, and began calculating. His pen moved rapidly as numbers appeared. He pushed the paper toward me. Mr. Chen, the 5th floor unit is 98 square meters. A conservative estimate is 12.5 million. The 3rd floor unit is 95 square meters, about 12.3 million. Together, 24.8 million. I saw Xu Meng's fingers tremble slightly. I nodded. Fine. List them at that price. Zhou Fulai nodded eagerly, then remembered something. Mr. Chen, the agency fee. I smiled. President Zhou, surely you can't waive it this time. Zhou Fulai froze, a complicated expression appearing. Mr. Chen, last time you said, you would let me earn the fee next time. I thought it was only polite talk, and never took it seriously. But now, you truly came back. He looked at me intensely. Lu Xingrong's gaze snapped toward me, and Xu Meng turned to look too. I smiled slightly, and put an arm around Xu Meng's shoulders. It has nothing to do with me. It's my wife. She's beautiful and kind, and brings prosperity to the family. Xu Meng's face turned bright red, and she lightly hit me. My phone vibrated. The 24.8 million had arrived. I glanced at it and returned the phone to my pocket. But Xu Meng kept staring at her screen. She checked the string of digits several times, then touched them with her finger and counted again and again. Only then did she look up. Zuisheng. Am I now a multimillionaire? I nodded. Yes. But I don't feel anything. She frowned, looking confused. The number is only on the phone. The apartments never moved. The store is still just as busy. How did I become a multimillionaire? Lu Xingrong burst out laughing beside us. Sister-in-law, a wealthy person must live like one. Only then will it feel real. Brother, listen to my advice. Change homes. Buy a large villa. Our company just launched detached houses near Tsuehu. Excellent environment and privacy, with gardens and garages. I'll reserve the best one for you. Consider it my thanks. He sounded sincere, and I understood his calculation. After the Wenshin Garden School Zone news, the properties he had stockpiled and his Wanjiawi shares had risen even more than mine. From this single wave, he earned no less than developing 2 projects. He wanted my friendship even more, but I shook my head. Brother Lu, I appreciate the kindness, but we won't change homes. Xu Meng nodded forcefully beside me, right? I haven't enjoyed the top-floor sunroom enough. The roses on the terrace have only just bloomed. I inspect them every morning. It would be such a shame to leave. As she spoke, her voice held the delight of a young girl. I watched her, and became even more certain. What villa had I not lived in during my previous life? Those enormous empty homes, where I walked alone, and echoes were louder than human voices. Now our family of 3 lived closely together on the cozy top floor, beneath the glass dome, drinking tea and watching stars. It was better than any mansion. Seeing both of us shake our heads, Lu Xingrong did not insist. He immediately had another idea. Fine. If you won't change homes, then don't. But a car. Your business requires one now, doesn't it? When meeting clients later, you can't use a delivery truck every time. He paused, then added, Sister-in-law is now the famous fruit beauty. Her fans won't accept her riding the bus. That last line made Xu Meng laugh. She glanced at me, with a little willingness in her eyes. I thought and nodded. There's an auto show next week. We'll go look. Half an hour later, we returned to Wanjiawi. Before the car had fully stopped, I sensed something wrong. A crowd surrounded the shop. They weren't buying, but watching trouble. Several men blocked the entrance, with hands on hips and cigarettes in their mouths. Smoke curled around an unmistakably hostile atmosphere. My heart sank. I opened the door and hurried over, pushing through the crowd, to see inside. The live stream stand lay on the floor, and the phone screen was shattered. Several fruit crates that had been neatly arranged were overturned, with mandarins rolling everywhere. The young women huddled in a corner, their faces pale. In the live stream seat, where Xu Meng usually sat, was a middle-aged man, with a buzz cut and a thumb-thick gold chain. His legs were crossed, and he rolled 2 walnuts in one hand. He narrowed his eyes and examined me, without standing. You're the owner? I scanned the shop and kept my voice steady. What can I do for you gentlemen? The buzz-cut man clicked his tongue and placed the walnuts on the table. Allow me to introduce myself. They call me Brother Yong. Brother Yong of the Eastern District. I run a business services company. We're expanding recently, and I want this storefront. He stood and walked up to me, looking me over. This is a good location. right at the north gate, with live stream sales too. Business must be excellent. I said nothing. He continued, I'll name a price. 50,000. Take the money and reopen elsewhere. I want this storefront. He patted my shoulder. Brother, show me some respect. Move out today. I looked down at where he had touched me, then raised my eyes. Brother Yong, was it? This shop is not for sale. Brother Yong stared at me. Brother, maybe you didn't hear clearly, I said. Show me some respect. Are you accepting that respect or not? I smiled coldly. Just then, the car door opened behind us, and Lu Xingrong strode over. Who's causing trouble here? Brother Yong turned and narrowed his eyes. A smile immediately filled his face. Oh, Chairman Lu. Why are you here? Is this little store under your protection? Lu Xingrong walked beside me and sneered. Under my protection, I developed this entire Wanjiawi district. I give my shops to whomever I choose. He stepped forward. Who the hell are you? Playing gangster on my territory? Brother Yong's expression changed repeatedly. His jaw clenched, but he finally swallowed his anger. Chairman Lu, that's rather harsh. I only came to discuss business. Harmony brings wealth. Discuss business? Lu Xingrong pointed at the fallen livestream stand and the smashed fruit. Is this how you discuss business? Brother Yong laughed awkwardly without answering. He turned toward me, his gaze sinister. Fine, brother. Chairman Lu is here today, so I'll show you respect. At the door, he turned back. But you'd better think carefully. Can someone really protect you forever? He waved, and the men followed him into the crowd. The shop fell silent. The young women finally began crying. Xu Meng rushed in from outside and hugged me tightly. Are you hurt? I'm fine. Patted her back. I looked toward the entrance. Lu Xingrong said, Brother, Lu Yong specializes in targeting profitable shops and keeps a gang of thugs under him. He left today out of respect for me, but he won't swallow this humiliation. From now on, you should. I know. Brother Lu, thank you for today. I said nothing more and simply crouched down, picking up the fallen mandarins one by one and returning them to the crates. The next day, the police station suddenly called me. Is this Chen Zuisheng? Your driver, Sun Jian, was involved in a fight. He's now in the hospital. A fight? Come to Municipal Hospital Number 1. Xu Meng and I hurried there and found the ward. When we opened the door, old Sun was lying in the hospital bed, with gauze wrapped around his head. His eye sockets were badly bruised and swollen nearly shut. A woman sat in the chair beside him, her eyes red. Probably his wife. 2 police officers stood by the window. One was taking a statement, while the other watched with folded arms. Boss Chen. Old Sun struggled to sit up when he saw us. I crossed the room quickly and pressed him back down. Don't move. What happened? Old Sun opened his mouth, but no words came. His wife's tears began flowing again. Her voice choked. Boss Chen. My husband never causes trouble. He's an honest man. I know. I looked at Old Sun. Take your time, brother. Old Sun caught his breath and began explaining. He had gone to collect dragon fruit. After the truck was loaded and everything secured, he had barely left the market gate when a group suddenly rushed from the roadside, carrying clubs and stones. They attacked the truck without saying a word. Some climbed onto the cargo bed and began throwing the freshly loaded dragon fruit out. Box after box smashed onto the ground. Old Sun had served in the military. He jumped down and knocked 2 men over. But there were too many attackers. No matter how well he fought, he could not withstand 7 or 8 men surrounding him. A club struck the back of his head. Before falling, he saw them smash the windows and slash the tires with knives. When he woke again, he was in the hospital. After finishing, Old Sun clenched his back teeth, his jaw bulging with anger. I walked out with the 2 officers. Officer, about this matter, what can be done? I offered one of them a cigarette. The older officer accepted and held it in his mouth without lighting it. He's your employee? Yes. My driver, a military veteran. He never causes trouble. The officer nodded. The attackers fled quickly. By the time we arrived, only smashed fruit remained. Their license plates had been covered with mud. The cameras captured several backs, but no clear faces. Then what can we do? We've taken the statement and opened a case. He glanced at me, but you know, cases like this are difficult unless there's a larger anti-gang operation. Otherwise, they're hard to solve. I understood. When I returned to the ward entrance, Xu Meng was coming out. She had given Old Sun's wife 8,000 yuan and told him to focus on recovering. The store's losses did not matter. He could return to work once healed and would still receive wages during recovery. Old Sun's wife chased after her and grabbed Xu Meng's hand, too grateful to speak. After leaving the hospital, Xu Meng asked me, what did the police say? I told her, they opened a case, but catching them will be difficult. She frowned. Then what do we do? Should we ask Lu Xingrong for help? I shook my head. No need to involve him. The lawful world has lawful methods, and the underworld has its own. Don't worry, I'll handle this. I called Gu Weidong. At noon the next day, a black business van stopped outside the shop. The driver got out and opened the door. With great respect, Xu Meng watched from afar, looking uneasy. I did not explain much, and got into the car. It twisted through many streets, and stopped at the entrance of an old alley. The alley was deep, with old residential buildings on both sides, and peeling walls. At the very end was a noodle shop, with a tiny sign, whose lettering had faded. I pushed open the door. There were 5 or 6 tables, but only one person sat at the farthest one. Gu Weidong was eating noodles with his head down. When he saw me approach, he pointed to the stool beside him. See, want some? I looked at the noodles in his bowl. They were dark-colored and unevenly cut. No. He looked up at me. You're certainly direct. Why eat something that tastes bad? He froze, then laughed. Chen Zuisheng, I can't tell whether you're confident or arrogant. He put down his chopsticks. But you're right. They do taste bad. However, long ago, this food saved my life. I listened quietly. During those difficult years, my parents were persecuted over foreign connections. My sister and I were abandoned and nearly starved. An old neighbor secretly brought us a bowl of these noodles every day. He moved the noodles with his chopsticks, buckwheat mixed with elm bark powder. Terrible but filling. After I became successful, I searched for that old neighbor, but he had already passed away. He paused. Still, I come eat a bowl occasionally. To remind myself where I crawled out from, I looked at the bowl and remained silent for several seconds. Brother Gu, I'll say something unpleasant. Go ahead. Eating delicious food is the best way to honor the past. He looked up. Eating coarse food every day isn't remembering your roots. It's self-indulgent sentimentality. If you truly remember your roots, you should eat the best, wear the best, and live the best life. Let that starving child from long ago see that we survived and live better than anyone. Gu Weidong stared at me for several seconds. That makes sense. He wiped his mouth and returned to his usual expression. Now to business. That Lu Yong is only a minor figure. Behind him is Lai Laosan of Changjiang Company.
Lai Laosan?
He came from the streets, then cleaned up his image, and entered the district political consultative conference. Gu Weidong spoke disdainfully. I said, if he's already gone legitimate, why is he still so arrogant? He has no choice. Gu Weidong leaned back. He's a knife in someone else's hand. It isn't that he wants arrogance. If he stops being ruthless, they'll replace him with another knife. Then he never truly went legitimate. Gu Weidong smiled. I'll settle this for you. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He looked at me. My daughter's birthday is next week. I'm holding a small gathering. Bring your daughter. I looked at him. Your relationship with her is going well? A softness appeared on Gu Weidong's face. Using your information, I found Nuanyuan and spent a great deal of time with her. I've postponed most outside business recently and stay home playing with her every day. He paused. She grew up without a father. Now she has one, but she has few friends. I want her to meet more children her age. How old is your daughter? 5. My Nuanyuan is 6. They should play well together. He looked at me. Bring your wife and child next weekend. I nodded. When I returned home, Xu Meng was watering roses on the terrace. I told her what had happened. The watering can stop in midair. Gu Weidong? The friend you mentioned before? Xu Meng clearly became nervous. Then, what is his family like? What should I wear? What should Qianqian wear? Should we prepare a gift? I could not help laughing. Meng, don't be nervous. She took a deep breath. I've never been in that kind of setting. This Gu Weidong. You've mentioned him several times. He sounds like someone from an elite family. I thought, starting from his father, they are indeed an influential family. Xu Meng's face turned pale, but then I changed the subject. There is another side. Gu Weidong is the least accomplished member of his family. He and I are birds of a feather, basically just a thug. Xu Meng glared at me. I put an arm around her shoulders. Don't overthink it. Tomorrow we'll buy clothes for you and Qianqian. Then visit the auto show. We'll drive the new car next week and arrive properly. They're really just an ordinary family, perhaps a little worse off than us now. She laughed and lightly hit me. The next day, at Ninghai's most upscale shopping mall, inside a women's boutique, I chose an ivory dress for Xu Meng. She took it into the fitting room. A few minutes later, the door opened and she came out. I froze. The dress fit perfectly. The ivory made her skin appear even fairer. Her hair fell loose. As she lowered her head slightly toward me, I suddenly remembered all the actresses and models from my previous life. But none had ever made my heart move this fiercely. Does it look good? She asked softly. I did not answer. I simply stared at her. The sales associate said quietly,
Mom.
This dress suits you perfectly. Xu Meng smiled with pursed lips and looked at herself in the mirror. Then she picked up the price tag, and her smile froze. She turned around, with panic in her eyes. Honey, it's 6,800. Wrap this one up. I handed my card to the associate, then pointed at the rack. That one. And the dress beside it. Bring them both for her to try. Xu Meng grabbed my arm and whispered, They're too expensive. I ignored her and nodded to the associate. The young woman's eyes brightened, and she hurried to the rack. A few minutes later, the fitting room door opened again. Xu Meng emerged in a navy velvet gown. The dark blue velvet flowed beautifully. The neckline was perfectly balanced, and the waist elegantly fitted. I also had her try a light gray knit set, then a simple black dress. Every piece looked beautiful, not because the clothes were beautiful, but because she made all of them beautiful. Wrap them all. After charging the card, she returned it with both hands. Sir, Ma'am, I'll package your clothes. Just then, Qianqian tugged my hand. Daddy, I need the bathroom. I looked down at her. Okay. Daddy will take you. I turned to Xu Meng. Wait here and collect the packages. I'll take Qianqian to the restroom. We'll be right back. She nodded. I led Qianqian toward the mall restroom. Only later did I learn that shortly after I left, two young women passed the boutique. One casually glanced inside and suddenly stopped. Cousin? Xu Meng turned and froze too when she saw the visitor, Xiaoya. The girl was Xu Meng's younger cousin, Lu Xiaoya. Lu Xiaoya rushed inside and looked her over from head to toe. Cousin, it really is you. I thought I was mistaken.
Xu Meng smiled.
Why are you here? I'm meeting a classmate for dinner. Lu Xiaoya's eyes settled on her, and the dress she had not yet changed out of. Cousin, are you shopping here? Xu Meng awkwardly tugged the hem. No, just looking around. The other girl also walked in and examined Xu Meng curiously. Lu Xiaoya reacted. This is my cousin. Cousin, this is my classmate. We're going to dinner together. Hello. Xu Meng nodded to the girl. Cousin, we'll head upstairs first. I'll call you later. Lu Xiaoya pulled her classmate away. After they rounded the corner outside, the classmate immediately grabbed her. Your cousin is so rich. Lu Xiaoya froze. Rich? I don't think so. Any outfit in that store costs several thousand. Her classmate glanced back. I just saw a pile of clothes at the register. She bought all of them, right? Seriously? Lu Xiaoya slowed down. I heard my wife ran into her cousin, but I didn't think much of it. 2 days later, we went to the auto show, with one clear goal, a business van. Xu Meng warned me on the way. Honey, let's not buy anything too expensive. Around 1 or 200,000 is enough. I nodded indifferently. I'd driven every luxury car in my past life. To me, a car was just a tool. After entering the venue, we followed the crowd. When we passed the Volkswagen booth, Qianqian suddenly stopped. Daddy, look! She excitedly pointed at a car, a retro-style Beetle. Its soft pink body stood among the cold metal machines, like a fairy tale that had wandered in. So cute. Qianqian tugged my hand. This car suits mommy. And me too. I looked down at her. Do you like it? The little girl nodded hard. I looked at Xu Meng. She said nothing, just stared at the car, her eyes unusually gentle, then softly asked how much it cost. I knew that look too well. She clearly liked it, but feared it was too expensive. Secretly calculating the cost in her head, I waved over a salesperson. Hello, sir. This top trim Beetle lists at just over 300,000. There is a show discount. Xu Meng gently tugged my sleeve. Honey, that's too expensive. I ignored her and told the salesperson, if I pay in full, is one available now? Yes, sir. You can take this display car today. Xu Meng gripped my sleeve tighter. Honey, I turned to her. It's rare that both you and Qianqian like it. She froze, unable to speak. The salesperson watched nearby, envy in her eyes. But how can we meet clients in this car? Xu Meng finally found an excuse. We can't pick people up in a Beetle. Then we'll buy another business van. I said matter-of-factly, I'll drive the business van and use it for clients. This one is for you and Qianqian. She looked at me, her eyes turning red. I said, how about this? I'll choose the car for you and Qianqian. You choose my van, any price or brand you like. All right? She gently nodded, then led Qianqian toward the other booths, while I handled the paperwork. Half an hour later, the paperwork was done. Just as I was about to find them, my phone rang. Xu Meng's voice was clearly wrong. Honey, where are you? Come to booth 6 now. What happened? They pushed Qianqian. Hurry over. Her last few words were filled with anger and panic. I hung up and rushed over immediately. A crowd had already formed when I arrived. I squeezed through and saw Xu Meng crouching, holding Qianqian tightly, glaring across from her, her face red with anger. Qianqian was in her arms, her shoulders trembling. A woman stood opposite them, in her 30s, wearing a black suit, with a name badge on her chest. The booth manager, her arms folded, several guards beside her. What happened?
He walked over.
When Xu Meng saw me, she handed me the child, then charged forward. Why did you push my daughter? She's 4. Are you 4 too? The woman snorted.
Mom.
Please control yourself. First, this is our booth. We have the right to protect our exhibits. Second, the barrier is right there. Your daughter crawled under it herself. Third, she raised 3 fingers and waved them. I only lightly blocked her. She lost her balance and fell herself. What does that have to do with me? Shouting like this is damaging our booth's image. I can have security escort you out. You? Me what? The woman cut her off. If you feel wronged, you may file a complaint. Booth 6. My name is Lin Na. I'll be waiting anytime, but let me remind you, we see complaints like this all the time. Her gaze swept over Xu Meng's face, then fell on Qianqian in my arms. She chuckled. Children get bumps and scrapes. It's normal. Just take her home and comfort her. There's no need to make a scene here. If you're trying to extort us, we have lawyers. She straightened her suit, her tone arrogant. Besides, this is a high-end booth. We serve high-net-worth clients. Different asset levels naturally receive different levels of service. If your assets met the standard. She leaned slightly forward, moving closer, and lowered her voice, yet loud enough for everyone around to hear. I'd even kneel and lick your shoes. The question is, are you worthy? After hearing Xu Meng's account, I roughly understood what happened. Our daughter saw that large SUV and thought it suited Daddy, so she wanted a closer look. The barrier was set at adult height. The red rope was just above Qianqian's head. She hadn't even noticed it. Then Lin Na shoved Qianqian to the ground. I stepped forward and pulled Xu Meng close, putting Qianqian back in her arms. I looked at Lin Na, my voice calm. Manager Lin, right? You said different net worth gets different service. I think that makes sense.
Lin Na's lips curled.
Thinking I was backing down, I ignored her and looked inside the booth at the flustered staff. 5 cars were parked side by side. Lin Na said one had already been reserved, leaving 4 available. I pointed at those 4. These 4. I'll take them all. What?
Lin Na froze.
The staff froze too. I repeated myself. 4 cars. All 4. Write up the order. No one moved. I looked at them. What? Think I can't afford them? I pulled out my bank card and set it on the counter. Then I took out the bank receipt from buying the Beetle at Volkswagen and slapped it on the table. This is the receipt from Volkswagen. Take a look. A young woman with a ponytail hesitated, then came over and picked it up. She glanced at it. Her eyes instantly widened. She covered her mouth instinctively, then looked up at me. Her expression completely changed. Xu Meng forgot her anger for a moment. She hurried over and grabbed my arm. Honey, are you really buying them? Even if we buy not from them. I pulled her down to sit and patted the back of her hand. Trust me. When the paperwork was nearly finished, I suddenly bent down and took off one of Xu Meng's heels, then tossed it in front of Lin Na. Lin Na stared at the shoe on the floor. Her face turned dark red. I wonder if I'm wealthy enough to qualify for your premium service, I asked. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. More and more people gathered. Some whispered. Others filmed with their phones. Seeing her stay silent, I shook my head. Seems your company doesn't honor its service promise. I turned around and told the ponytailed girl handling my purchase. These 4 cars, I'm canceling them. Sir, but Lin Na's face turned deathly pale. During the auto show, to encourage sales, cancellations were fully refundable for the first 2 days. Later cancellations only lost a small deposit. Normally, no one would do that. Who buys a car just to cancel it, then buys and cancels again? But now, that policy became her death sentence. Just then, a familiar voice came from behind the crowd. Brother, what are you doing here? Lu Xingrong pushed through the crowd and strode inside. I turned to him Brother Lu, what brings you here? I'm here to look at cars. He walked beside me, looked at the shoe on the floor, then at the frozen Lin Na. What happened here? I briefly explained. After hearing it, Lu Xingrong's face darkened. He turned toward the cars. His gaze landed on the SUV, and he froze. This car. He took out his phone, scrolled, then showed it to me. Is it this one? A photo was on the screen. It was that exact SUV. Even the angle matched. Brother, this is the car I reserved. You reserved it? Yes. I planned to give it to you. He pointed at the car. Last time you said you wouldn't move, so I thought I'd get you a better car. I had someone hold this one. Delivery was tomorrow. He turned toward Lin Na, his eyes turning cold. You pushed the child? All color drained from Lin Na's face. Chairman Lu, I didn't know. Lu Xingrong ignored her and waved. Cancel it. I don't want this car anymore. He took out his phone and made a call. Hello, Old Zheng. That dark green SUV at booth 6, the one I reserved. Cancel it. Yes, right now. Lin Na went completely numb. Soon, a middle-aged man in a suit hurried over, his forehead covered in sweat. Chairman Lu, what happened? Lu Xingrong said, President Zheng, your manager is impressive. My little niece wanted to see the car, and she shoved her down. President Zheng's face turned green. He glared at Lin Na, as if he wanted to devour her. Lin Na opened her mouth. President Zheng, you what? Starting now, you no longer work for this company. Lin Na's legs gave way, and she collapsed to the floor. After leaving booth 6, I quickly put the unpleasant incident behind me. Lu Xingrong walked beside us, chatting as we went. When we reached the rest area, he suddenly stopped. Brother, that whole mess was partly because of me. I must buy your family a car today. Don't argue with me. I froze. Brother Lu, you really don't have to. If you refuse, you're looking down on me. He was adamant, then turned to Xu Meng. Sister-in-law, you decide. Your husband won't show me respect. Surely you will, right? Xu Meng was caught off guard by suddenly being addressed. She glanced at me. I nodded slightly. We were planning to buy a business van. Around 200,000. Lu Xingrong's eyes lit up. Easy. Leave it to me. I know business vans best. I'll find one you'll love. He walked off after saying that, then turned back after 2 steps. Why are you standing there? Come on. Xu Meng and I exchanged a look, not knowing whether to laugh or cry, then followed with Qianqian in my arms. Lu Xingrong knew the venue well, and led us straight to the Mercedes booth. A streamlined silver van stood in the center. Beside it was a long-legged model, posing for photos. Lu Xingrong walked over. Without even looking at the model, he pointed at the car. This one, then waved to a staff member. Come right up the order. The model visibly froze. Even stopping her pose, a staff member hurried over. Hello, sir. Are you sure you want this one? Yes. Lu Xingrong answered, then immediately began persuading Xu Meng. Sister-in-law, trust me on this. This car meets every need you have. Mercedes is a premium brand. It looks prestigious on the road. A business van has plenty of space. Good for clients or family trips. He explained it convincingly. I glanced at the car, then at the sign on the booth, and couldn't help laughing. Brother Lu, do you know how much this costs? He blinked. 200,000. That's what sister-in-law said. This is a Mercedes AMG. I pointed at the badge. It isn't 200,000. It's around 2 million. Lu Xingrong's expression froze for a second. Xu Meng was startled. 2 million? That expensive? No. Brother Lu, this is far too valuable. We can't accept it. Lu Xingrong quickly recovered and played dumb. Huh? Didn't you say 2 million? I must have misheard. I heard it wrong. When none of us spoke, he simply became shameless. Fine, I admit it. I did it on purpose. But I can't bring myself to gift something worth only 200,000. If I'm giving one, it will be this. If you refuse, I'll sit here all day and never leave. He sat down beside us. Looking at his shameless act, I suddenly smiled. Lu Xingrong had earned a lot from my tips, but he was never someone who only took. He was always thinking how to repay me. He was worth befriending. I glanced at Xu Meng. She was still refusing. He walked over and patted her shoulder. Accept it. She looked up at me, a little surprised. I nodded. The moment Lu Xingrong saw me agree, he sprang from the chair, afraid I'd change my mind, and waved at the staff. Full payment. Write it up, right now. That weekend, I drove the Mercedes AMG with Xu Meng and Qianqian to Gu Weidong's daughter's birthday party. The villa district was quiet. Gu Weidong waited personally at the entrance. When he saw us get out, he hurried over. Brother Chen, sister-in-law, please come in. He pulled over a little girl in a white princess dress to stand beside him. Qianqian, greet uncle and auntie. The girl was delicate and pretty, but her eyes were evasive. She timidly said, hello, uncle. Hello, auntie. Before anyone could introduce them, Qianqian's eyes suddenly lit up. She walked over on her own and took Qianqian's hand. Your name is Qianqian?
I'm Qianqian.
Let's go play. The two little girls held hands, whispering to each other, and ran into the courtyard. Qianqian froze briefly and looked at Gu Weidong. Gu Weidong smiled and nodded. Only then did she softly agree. Xu Meng looked a little awkward and whispered to me, why is Qianqian being so impolite? I smiled. This is good. She's getting more outgoing. She may become a real social butterfly. Gu Weidong clapped happily. Wonderful. This is wonderful. Ever since Qianqian came back, ever since she returned, I felt she's far too withdrawn, always staying alone, never wanting to play with anyone. It's great she can play with a girl her age. Hearing this, doubt flashed through Xu Meng's eyes. She glanced at me. I only smiled faintly and didn't ask. It was their private matter. Gu Weidong was perceptive and explained on his own. Brother Chen knows my story. I found my daughter, but her mother still refuses to forgive me. I nodded and comforted him. Take it slowly. Some things can't be rushed. Let things happen naturally. He visibly brightened. Brother, hearing you say that puts my mind at ease. Xu Meng watched from the side, surprise flashing in her eyes. She never expected such a successful man to listen to me so closely. I'll go check on the children, she said, then headed into the courtyard. Gu Weidong quickly pulled me aside. Brother, come. Let's sit in the study. The study was on the second floor. When the door opened, I froze. An elderly man with graying hair sat inside.
Slowly sipping tea.
Old Master Gu. Gu Weidong looked embarrassed. My father mainly wanted to meet you. He feared you wouldn't come, so I didn't tell you beforehand. I stepped forward. Greetings, Old Master. Old Master Gu set down his teacup, stood and nodded to me. Young friend Chen, please sit. He personally poured me tea and offered it with both hands. Young friend Chen helped recover my granddaughter, so this old man must offer you a cup of tea. To express my gratitude, I accepted it with both hands. Old Master, you're too courteous. I didn't help Brother Gu without asking something in return. Old Master Gu nodded. I know. It was for your daughter. He pointed at Gu Weidong. He also did it for his daughter. It benefited both sides greatly. He paused and looked at me intently. Of course, this old man also has a request in wanting to meet you. I understood at once and put down my teacup. Please tell me, Old Master, he slowly began. My son told me. Young friend Chen is highly skilled at predicting fortune and disaster, so I would like you to read my fortune too. Old Master Gu wanted a reading. I couldn't refuse. Regarding the Gu family, I knew a few things. The Gu family differed from other domestic clans. Most of their influence was overseas. When the domestic economy opened up, it urgently needed foreign capital and technology. Old Master Gu seized the chance and brought in plenty, along with connections from his studies abroad, with several founding elders. The Gu family gradually entered the domestic sphere and expanded into politics. Such a background had pros and cons. On one hand, they struggled to truly fit in and were easily viewed as outsiders. On the other, they stayed respected and detached, with no grudges against any faction. When other clans expanded overseas, they also needed the Gu family's help, so everyone showed the old master respect. But one incident made the Gu family offend a top domestic clan. Years ago, the Gu family donated relics to a museum. Several years later, one suddenly appeared at an auction. The old master thought the museum had stolen it and became furious, insisting on an investigation. But he never expected the relic had been borrowed by a retired senior official. Pursuing it offended powerful people. As a result, Gu Weidong's elder brother, Gu Weihong, saw his political career stalled. After reviewing this history in my mind, I looked at old Master Gu and nodded. What would you like me to divine? Fortune or misfortune? He paused. The Gu family's future fortune. I pondered for a moment. Then please write a character. He wrote the character Ding on the paper. I studied the character, then looked at the old master, and understood. Some things couldn't be stated plainly. Flow, Autumn, but I could give him a hint. I picked up the brush and wrote a poem beside it. The golden vessel lies buried for 20 autumns. Yet the jade disk's return must have a cause. Clouds that veil the sun will finally disperse. Then watch the river flow eastward. Old Master Gu read the poem and frowned slightly. He looked up at me, a trace of disappointment in his eyes, though he quickly hid it, and nodded faintly. Thank you, young friend Chen. He folded the paper and told Gu Weidong, prepare a gift. To thank young friend Chen for me. I stood up and waved my hand. Old master, you're too courteous. There's no need for a gift. It was only one character, nothing worth rewarding. With that, I turned and took my leave. After leaving the study, I knew clearly, the old master probably thought I was being mysterious. It didn't matter. Some things were best left as hints. The next morning, Xu Meng went to the fruit shop at Wanjiawi, while I took Qianqian to kindergarten. Not long after she arrived, she called me. Honey, come quickly. The shop is surrounded again. I hurriedly dropped Qianqian at the nearby kindergarten, then turned around and raced to Wanjiawi. When I arrived, something felt wrong. A huge crowd surrounded the fruit shop, packed several rows deep. I squeezed through and froze. A line of people knelt outside my shop, led by Brother Yong. A week ago, he'd acted arrogantly inside. Now he knelt rigidly at the entrance, his head hanging low, his face black and blue. 4 or 5 underlings knelt behind him, all bruised and swollen. 2 even had arms hanging in slings. The whole row was kowtowing in unison, their foreheads thudding against the tiles, without holding back at all. 2 men stood nearby, Gu Weidong's driver, and his bodyguard, arms folded, watching expressionlessly. The crowd erupted. Isn't that Brother Yong? Why is he kneeling here? Who is this fruit shop's owner? Even Brother Yong is kneeling to her.
No idea.
She looks like a young woman. Never knew she was this formidable. I ignored their gossip and hurried into the shop. Xu Meng sat behind the register, her face expressionless, just sitting there, but I knew her too well. Her hand gripped a cup, her knuckles white. I walked over and held her hand. It was ice cold. She looked up at me, her eyes instantly reddened. Honey, they knelt here as soon as we opened. They scared me to death. I was speechless. Everyone thinks you're a tough boss, but you're hiding inside terrified. I patted the back of her hand, then went outside to the driver. What's going on? The driver was very respectful. Mr. Chen. The boss ordered it. They must kowtow and apologize until you and your wife are satisfied. How many times have they done it? We didn't count. They'll keep going until you're satisfied. I nodded, then crouched in front of Brother Yong. He looked up at me, his face covered in sweat. The skin on his forehead split open, blood running down with the sweat. We meet again, Brother Yong. I looked at him. You had my truck smashed, right? And your men dumped the dragon fruit, right? What should we do about it? How about you leave one hand behind? His face turned white instantly. He began kowtowing again. Brother, I was wrong. I was wrong. I failed to recognize someone great. I'll compensate you for everything. With money? Yes, yes. I'll pay double for the truck, fruit, and medical bills. Triple is fine too. I waved my hand. No need to pay me. Are there other merchants in Wanjiawi you extort? He opened his mouth, then stayed silent. Refund every one of them. From now on, in this market, none of your men may enter again. Understand? He nodded frantically. Yes, yes. I'll refund them now. If any of my men step into Wanjiawi again, I'll chop off my own hand. I stood up and stopped looking at him. The crowd suddenly erupted in cheers. Did you hear that? No more protection fees. The owner is so righteous. She drove those bastards out for us. More than righteous. She's incredible. Brother Yong ruled here for years. Who dared provoke him? From now on, I'll only buy fruit from her shop. I froze at what I heard. I was clearly the one who negotiated this. I made Brother Yong refund them. I drove his men away. Why was everyone thanking the lady boss? I glanced back at Xu Meng. She was still behind the register. The fear hadn't fully left her face. Fine. The lady boss it is. She still had to accompany the boss at night anyway. As for Brother Yong, Gu Weidong handled it so quickly, I decided to give him another hint. When the call connected, I thanked him first. About Lu Yong. It was nothing, Gu Weidong said. I spoke with Third Master Lai. He won't dare act again. I paused. By the way, I never fully explained the character your father wrote. It involves cultural relics. I can't say too much, or I might reveal heaven's secrets. But peace of mind is a blessing. Some things aren't worth pursuing too far. Gu Weidong was silent for 2 seconds. I understand. I'll tell my father. After hanging up, I said enough. Whatever the Gu family chose next was none of my concern. At noon in the shop, several of us ate boxed lunches around a small table. Luo Diandian ate while scrolling her phone, then suddenly cried out, "My house is being demolished." We hired her to help Xu Meng livestream. She was a Ninghai local, a lively media studies student who chattered all day. What demolition? Here, the news alert. She handed me her phone. I took it and looked. The headline was huge. Southwest Old City redevelopment begins. Riverside Business District expansion. It was exactly what I'd said. At Lu Xingrong's dinner, exactly the same. Old City demolition, Riverside expansion. Every prediction was right. I returned her phone and kept eating. From the corner of my eye, I saw Xu Meng watching me. She said nothing, but I understood that look. She also remembered that day. I met her gaze and winked. She froze, then pursed her lips and smiled, before lowering her head to continue eating. Just then, brakes screeched outside the shop. A black Mercedes stopped right at the entrance. The door flew open. Lu Xingrong nearly jumped out. "Brother." He strode inside, sweat still on his forehead. "Brother Lu, what happened? You have to help me this time." He dropped into the seat opposite me. "That Southwest District plan. You saw the news, right? Just now. You got everything right." He slapped the table. "Everything you said that day, every bit of it came true." The new mayor took office, and his first move was Old City redevelopment and Riverside expansion. He took a deep breath. "Brother, I'm under enormous pressure now." I tapped the table. "You bet heavily and won." "Why the pressure?" "Winning is exactly why I'm pressured." He anxiously rubbed his hands. "Vision Group is the hottest company around, but Old City redevelopment isn't easy. Demolition, relocation, relics, merchants. One mistake in any part, and my rivals will eat me alive." He lowered his voice. "Recently, I used other land parcels to trade with several companies for a lot of land in the Southwest District. Back then, they laughed at me for being foolish. Now they're green with envy, waiting for me to make a mistake." I listened without responding. "The new mayor has already summoned me." Lu Xingrong continued. "Mayor, when asked for a concrete proposal, I promised to deliver one he'd approve soon." He leaned forward. "Brother, you have to help me this time." I tapped the table. "Brother Lu, your company has many executives, plenty of capable people. This requires mobilizing the whole company's resources. It's inconvenient for an outsider like me to interfere." "What's inconvenient about it?" "Join our company as CEO. How about 10 million a year?" I shook my head. "I'm used to being free. I can't be a CEO." "Then how about this?" His mind raced. "Become our executive director and act as CEO. Once the Southwest project is finished, you can come and go freely. I won't stop you." I smiled. "I don't own shares in your company. How could I be executive director?" He grinned. "As for Wanjiawi, I recently acquired quite a few shares. I'll transfer them all to you. Then you can use those shares to swap for Vision Group equity." I paused slightly. That offer was interesting. If I obtained Wanjiawi shares, I wouldn't just be a merchant here, I'd become a market shareholder. That was a huge difference. I thought for a moment, then raised 2 fingers. 2 conditions. First, whatever the Wanjiawi shares are worth. I'll pay market price. I appreciate the favor, but the payment can't be reduced. He opened his mouth to speak, but I raised a hand to stop him. Second, I looked him in the eyes. Regarding the Southwest District plan, I want full authority. I decide the proposal. I choose the team. I control the process. Everyone at Vision Group, including you, Brother Lu, must follow my orders. Lu Xingrong froze for a second, then laughed. A hearty laugh. Fine. He held out his hand. Brother, it's settled. The equity swap was completed in 3 days. At the temporary shareholders meeting on day 4, Xu Meng and I officially became new Vision Group shareholders. Her shareholding wasn't large, but a shareholder was still a shareholder. Before leaving that morning, she stood before the mirror for nearly 20 minutes, wearing a navy business suit, her hair pinned up, revealing her fair neck. I froze. It was my first time seeing her dressed like this. She looked like a beautiful office professional. The shareholders' meeting ended quickly. I became CEO. Xu Meng sat in the back row, watching quietly throughout. Let's go meet the management team, Lu Xingrong said. pulling Xu Meng along. Sister-in-law, you're a shareholder now too.
Come listen.
Xu Meng looked at me, expectation in her eyes. I nodded. Come listen with us. The management conference room was full of executives.
Familiar fases.
Nodded in greeting, while strangers scrutinized me, some with disdain, especially the man at the head on the left, a square-faced man in his 50s, hostility in his gaze. Lu Xingrong whispered, Hu Quan, the former general manager. Your arrival reduced his authority. After announcing my appointment, Lu Xingrong emphasized, if my opinion ever conflicts with President Chen's, follow President Chen. The room erupted in murmurs. Hu Quan's mouth tightened. I stood and briefly introduced myself. The applause was sparse. Hu Quan didn't move. Just as I was about to sit, he spoke. President Chen isn't even 30. A CEO at that age. That's unprecedented in Vision's history. Isn't it? Someone beside him agreed. Only a bachelor's degree, and no professional background. Real estate has high technical barriers. Can President Chen handle it? I didn't answer. An executive with glasses continued. The Southwest project involves demolition and reconstruction. The proposal has been revised 6 times. Hundreds of pages. Several hundred pages. Is President Chen confident he can take over? Then Hu Quan stood and stared at me. I have a specific question. 3 late Qing and early Republic buildings must be protected during utility work and foundation excavation. One mistake could cause subsidence or collapse. We've studied it for a month. Does President Chen have a solution? Everyone in the room looked at me. Xu Meng's fingers tightened slightly. She could tell. This was an attempt to intimidate me. If I couldn't give a convincing answer, no one present would respect me. I lowered my head to study the drawings. The 3 old buildings were clearly marked. Their utilities and foundations were also detailed. Hu Quan had indeed worked hard. I looked up and smiled faintly. It was time to show Xu Meng what her husband could do. President Hu, that's a good question. I put the drawing back on the table, but before answering, let me ask you something. This is the 6th revision, with a 30 million budget for diaphragm walls. Hu Quan paused for half a second. Correct, around 30 million. I changed direction. Do you know this plan has a fatal flaw? His expression shifted. What flaw? I pushed the drawing forward. These old buildings have shallow foundations, no deeper than 2 meters. Your diaphragm wall goes 12 meters underground, directly piercing beneath the foundations. That changes the underground water flow, causing foundation soil loss. That isn't protection. It accelerates the damage. Hu Quan's face changed. Quiet discussion began around the room. I leaned back in my chair, speaking calmly. That's the first problem. The second problem, the 3 companies named in the proposal, Tiangong Construction, Hongda Geotech, and Yongchang Pipe. I picked up the file and flipped 2 pages. Tiangong belongs to your cousin. One Hongda shareholder is your nephew. Yongchang Pipe was founded less than 6 months ago. Its only client is Vision, and every contract is preliminary work for Southwest. The room fell completely silent. Everyone looked at Hu Quan. His face slowly turned pale. You're slandering me. He sprang to his feet. These are normal business partnerships. My cousin has worked in construction for over 10 years. Why can't he bid? I watched him without speaking. Only after he finished shouting did I slowly reply, President Hu, I haven't said they did anything wrong. Why are you so agitated? He choked. I turned to the finance director.
Directoli.
Please bring me these companies' last 2 annual reports. Lu Xingrong nodded. Go get them. 20 minutes later, 3 financial reports were placed before me. I picked them up, but didn't open them. I simply held them while watching Hu Quan. President Hu, you've been at Vision for 17 years. I'll give you 2 choices. Resign now, and I'll pretend nothing happened. I won't open these reports. But if I open them, you won't be facing me next, or Tiangong Construction. You'll be facing legal proceedings. The room was deathly silent. Everyone waited. He stood there, both hands braced on the table. 1 second, 2 seconds, then slowly lowered his head. I resign. I put down the reports. Take care, President Hu. I swept my gaze around the room. No one dared meet my eyes again. Let's continue the meeting. For my first act as the new leader, I burned Hu Quan. The news spread throughout Vision that same day. The effect was immediate. Over the next few days, every policy moved smoothly. Each department cooperated fully. Data arrived when requested. People were assigned when needed. No one dared stall. I worked around the clock with the team for a week, and finally produced results. The afternoon the proposal was completed, I gathered the whole team, and reviewed it from beginning to end. When I finished, the room was silent for several seconds. Someone began applauding. Then the applause grew louder, filling the room. I looked around at their bloodshot faces and smiled. Go home and sleep. Dinner tomorrow. No one moved. An engineer rubbed his hands. President Chen, can you explain the underground utility layout again? I didn't fully understand it, but it sounded incredible. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They were exhausted, senseless. But I knew, from this day forward, everyone at Vision truly respected me. I gave the proposal to Lu Xingrong. He flipped through a few pages, then stood up immediately. Brother, if this project succeeds, my life will have been worthwhile. He paced excitedly around the office, but after 2 laps, he suddenly stopped, his excitement turning to concern. But say it directly. He rubbed his hands and sat down. First problem, will the city approve it? Mayor Wen just took office. I'm afraid he lacks the courage. I smiled. We'll persuade him. If that fails, I'll go with you. Lu Xingrong relaxed slightly, then frowned again. Second, it costs too much. The budget is triple the original. We'll definitely need huge loans. What if? I interrupted him. Higher costs also mean higher profits. Long-term profits are 6 to 8 times greater. I know that. He smiled bitterly. But what about the initial investment? The banks? We don't need banks. He froze. What? The initial capital is only a little over 100 million. Don't tell me you can't even afford that. Lu Xingrong thought he'd misheard. A little over 100 million? From what I saw in your plan, it needs at least 800 million up front. I smiled faintly. Soon I'll show you what real capital operations look like. That afternoon, in a small conference room at City Hall, Mayor Wen brought the housing and planning chiefs, along with the finance bureau director, to hear our presentation. Lu Xingrong sat beside me, slightly nervous. Begin.
Mayor Wen Navid.
I opened the materials and spoke for 40 minutes straight. After 20 minutes, Mayor Wen's pen had stopped moving. He leaned back, staring at the projection, then at me. Without blinking, the bureau directors exchanged looks, shock and disbelief, along with confusion over who I was. After finishing, I pressed the next page key. The room was silent enough to hear a pin drop. For a full 5 seconds, Mayor Wen lifted his teacup. Everyone, any questions? Ask freely. Director Zhou spoke first. You're excavating 3 underground levels beneath the old district. How will the surrounding old buildings be protected? What if construction causes subsidence? I opened the relevant page. It isn't full excavation, but a point-based layout. Commerce, parking, and utilities are separated, then linked with microtunneling technology. Surface foundations will be reinforced in advance. 12 settlement sensors will be placed under each old building, with real-time data uploads. Director Wu adjusted his glasses. The Riverside expansion has 7 functional zones. What's the basis for their layout? Will there be redundant construction? I smiled. Every zone has a distinct purpose, then explained all 7 zones and their strategies. Director Wu had nothing more to say. Finally, Finance Director Zhang opened his notebook. I have only one question. How much must the city fund, and how much must it guarantee? I smiled faintly. Director Zhang, the city doesn't need to provide this money. Not only will the city spend nothing, it can even earn revenue from the project. Director Zhang's eyes instantly lit up. Mayor Wen put down his pen. I have one question. Large-scale demolition is always the hardest part. How can you guarantee it finishes on time, without incidents? I looked at him, then answered after several seconds. We don't need demolition at first.
Mayor Wen froze. No demolition?
Correct.
No demolition.
Everyone in the room froze. Lu Xingrong stared at me in shock, frantically signaling with his eyes. Mayor Wen stared at me. President Chen, how do you redevelop the old city without demolition? How will it work? I smiled. Home exchanges. Director Zhou frowned. Home exchanges? I explained with a smile. Reverse the order. Expand the Riverside first. Redevelop the old city later. Begin construction in the new Riverside district. Housing, commercial space, office buildings, offices, all built to high standards. Once complete, the city issues a policy. Government employees and residents and merchants from the Southwest Old District receive priority for home exchanges. I paused. Exchange order is decided by lottery. Those selected trade their old homes for new ones, paying the difference by floor area, construction cost, far below market price. The room was silent for several seconds. Director Wu's eyes widened. You mean, let them move voluntarily? Correct. I nodded. We aren't demolishing their homes. They'll want to exchange them themselves. Compare conditions in the old district with the new Riverside district. New homes, surroundings, and facilities, with only a small price difference. If it were you, wouldn't you exchange? Director Zheng asked. What about those unwilling to move? Once the willing residents leave, those remaining will be easier to negotiate with. I smiled. And their demands simpler. Then we discuss demolition. The difficulty drops by 80%. Director Zhou's mouth hung open. After a long pause, he finally asked, what about city employees? They receive the same benefit? Yes. Government employees lead by example. Then ordinary residents will be motivated. The first group to exchange homes will definitely be them. After I finished, I looked around. No one spoke. Everyone stared wide-eyed, looking at me like a monster. I understood the unspoken thought in their eyes. You can do that? Mayor Wen stood up. We'll study the proposal and reply soon. He escorted us downstairs, all the way to the car. Before we got in, he shook my hand again, raised his other hand, and firmly patted my shoulder twice. He said nothing, but I understood. The plan was approved quickly. Vision Group rebuilt its project teams and began construction at full speed. I worked non-stop every day, reviewing drawings, meeting, coordinating resources. Everything progressed according to plan, but I never expected this proposal to expose the biggest Ponzi scheme in Ninghai's history. That afternoon, my phone rang.
Xu Meng sao đờ ăn siêu sút?
Zuisheng, Dad is in trouble. I put down my pen. What happened? My brother called. The project Dad invested in was a scam. She spoke quickly. The organizer disappeared, and the money can't be recovered. Dad was hospitalized from the shock. I'm heading to the hospital now. After hanging up, I called Su Hai directly. He sighed. It was that Home for Pension project, led by a retired official. They claimed it was an internal quota, paying monthly interest. They did pay for the first few months. Dad was quite pleased. He paused. But a few days ago, some damned fool launched a lottery home exchange plan, giving officials and old city residents priority. Dad panicked when he heard his old home was mortgaged into the project, so he couldn't exchange it. He and several others went to ask the retired official to redeem it. The man said there was no problem anytime, but when they returned 2 days ago, he was gone. His house was empty, his phone was disconnected, and the project office was locked.
Su Hai's voice choke.
Everyone panicked. A crowd blocked the place and called police. You know Dad's temper. When he heard the money was gone, he fainted on the spot. I was silent for 2 seconds. I understand. I'll be there immediately. I hung up. I leaned back and rubbed my nose. What a mess. The plan I made for Mayor Wen prioritized city employees and Southwest residents for home exchanges. After the news was released, the response was surprisingly strong. It began as a benefit for city employees, but now included old city residents and merchants. Those people weren't fools. Of course they wanted to exchange. Every one of them wanted to reclaim the home's mortgage to that retired official, so they could join the exchange. They all rushed to redeem them. A Ponzi scheme fears nothing more than a bank run. The money had long been diverted, so how could he repay them? Of course, the retired official fled. I rubbed my brow. I only meant to advance the project, yet accidentally exposed a huge scam and dragged my father-in-law into it. I organized the papers on my desk, gave my team a few instructions, told them to continue working, then left for the hospital. When I arrived, a crowd packed the entrance. Someone was trying to jump from the hospital building. I looked up. A figure was faintly visible on the roof. A figure stood on the roof, waving his arms. My phone rang. Xu Meng's voice was anxious and trembling. Her voice was urgent and shaky.
Xu Meng sao đờ refit?
Zuisheng, Dad. He can't accept it. He's going to jump. My heart tightened. The man above was my father-in-law. Where are you? East side behind the building. Hurry. I went around the crowd and ran behind the building. Police line had been set up. Fire engines and police cars filled the area. An air cushion was being deployed. Xu Meng stood nearby, her face deathly pale. She rushed at me when she saw me, her eyes bloodshot. We looked away for one moment, and he ran out of the ward. 1,000,000 yuan and the house are both gone. The shock was too much. He lost hope. I looked up at the building. The figure had already climbed over the railing, standing at the very edge. Su Hai sat collapsed on the ground nearby. My mother-in-law was supported by 2 policewomen. The scene was chaotic. I looked at a young policewoman. What's the situation? Are you family? His son-in-law. Her brows were tightly furrowed. He's extremely agitated and holding a knife. The railing is badly rusted. Could give way any time. Whenever our people move closer, he sees them. A negotiator went up, but it hasn't worked. As soon as she finished, cries rang out from above. I jerked my head up. I looked up sharply. Xu Zhengqi had climbed outside the railing, onto the narrow outer ledge. Dad.
Xu hai sao Tết.
My mother-in-law's eyes rolled back, and she collapsed. The police caught her. Xu Meng's legs gave way. I caught her immediately. Zuisheng, Zuisheng. She clutched me, tears streaming. I helped her sit nearby, then turned to leave. What are you doing? The policewoman stopped me. I'll go talk to him. No. It's too dangerous. I have a way. I went around her and ran straight for the stairs. I raced to the rooftop in one breath. The wind was strong there. The negotiator stood 10 meters away, with his hands raised. Mr. Xu, money can be earned again, but if you lose your life, you lose everything. Xu Zhengqi had his back to him, standing outside the railing, waving the knife. Don't come closer. One more step and I'll jump.
He walked over
And patted the negotiator's shoulder. I'm family. Let me handle it. He froze, then slowly backed away. I took 2 steps forward and stopped. Dad. Xu Zhengqi's body jolted. He slowly turned. When he saw me, his bloodshot eyes grew redder. You came to laugh at me? I came to watch you jump. He froze. Aren't you going to jump? I took another step forward. I'll stand here and watch. You. His whole body trembled. The knife pointed at me. Chen Zuisheng. I ended up like this. All because of you. I nodded. Yes, because of me. I made you invest. I made you mortgage the house. I made you trust that old swindler. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I took another step. 1 million is gone. So you don't want your life either? If you jump, will the money come back? His lips trembled. That was my life savings. So what? Cut him off. If you die, what will your wife do? What will your son do? Your daughter is right below. If you jump, she'll watch it happen. Have you thought how she'll live afterward? His knife hand shook. Haven't you always wanted me to divorce your daughter? I slowly moved closer. Now's your chance. You have a knife, and I'm standing here. Before you jump, stab me first. Consider it revenge. He glared at me. Don't you hate me? I spread my hands. Come on. You're dying anyway. Take me with you. End it all. You think I don't dare? He suddenly raised the knife. Screams erupted below. The crowd screamed. I didn't move. I remained still, staring into his eyes. If you dare, do it. Stab me, then jump. You'll have company on the road to death. You won't be lonely. His knife stopped in midair, his arm shaking violently. I took another step. Only 3 meters separated us now. The rescue cushion was fully inflated, bright orange, looking like a tiny bandage below. I softened my voice. Your daughter is down there. Listen. She's calling for you. Xu Meng's crying drifted faintly through the wind. Xu Zhengqi's arm shook even harder. Tears rolled from his eyes. Have you considered this? I stared at him. If you die. And Qianqian asks where Grandpa went. What should I tell her? That Grandpa was cheated out of money and jumped because he couldn't bear it? She's only 5. It will scar her for life. His knife slowly lowered. At that instant, the railing creaked. A rusted section snapped. His body swayed. I didn't hesitate. I lunged forward, grabbing his knife wrist with my left hand, and wrapping my right arm tightly around his waist. Down. I threw all my weight backward, and both of us fell from the railing. Wind roared past. Countless screams surged from below. Then came a muffled thud. Everything went black. I don't know how long passed before I opened my eyes. The orange rescue cushion was beneath me. Xu Zhengqi lay on his back nearby, staring wide-eyed at the sky, completely motionless. Someone helped me up. Sir, how do you feel? Are you hurt anywhere? I didn't answer. I looked down at my left arm. Blood ran along it. In the instant the knife slashed, he hadn't fully lowered it. Zuisheng. Xu Meng forced her way through the police line and stumbled toward me. She knelt on the rescue cushion, looking at the blood on my arm, her whole body trembling. Why were you so foolish? Why did you do that? She wanted to touch me but didn't dare, her hand suspended in the air, huge tears falling. Do you know just now, when you fell from above? She couldn't continue, and threw her arms around me, sobbing loudly. What would the child and I do without you? I raised my uninjured right hand and gently patted her back. It's fine. Just a flesh wound. She kept crying, harder and harder. Medics rushed over and put me on a stretcher. Before they carried me away, I glanced back. Xu Zhengqi was also helped upright, his body limp as mud. He stared blankly toward us, not at me, but at his daughter, kneeling on the rescue cushion, holding me and crying her heart out. In the surgical emergency room, the doctor opened my wound with forceps. Fortunately, no tendons were damaged. 7 or 8 stitches, and 2 weeks of recovery. Xu Meng stood beside me, her eyes still red. When the needle passed through my skin, her hand trembled slightly. Does it hurt? After the wound was stitched and bandaged, I moved my arm. It's okay. Xu Meng still refused to leave, until Su Hai came in and said, Meng, Mom wants you to come over. Xu Meng looked at me. Go ahead. I'll wait here. She left the room.
Su Hai sat opposite me.
Chen Zuisheng, about what happened today. I waved my hand. After several seconds of silence, he asked, Where are you living now? In a garden apartment. He froze, then curled his lips. A garden apartment? Keep bragging. I believe you lived in a park. Halfway through speaking, his gaze fell on the bandage around my arm, and he swallowed the rest. I looked at him. A woman follows her husband, whether he's a rooster or a dog. Your sister is willing to live in a park with me. What does it have to do with you? He was left speechless. He walked to the door, then turned back. Mom asked me to tell you. Now the house is gone, and the money is gone, so you can't return even if you want to. Take care of yourselves. I nodded. We moved out and won't go back. Tell Mom and Dad the Ponzi scheme collapsed. The money probably can't be recovered, but the house doesn't have legs. Can't run away. It should be returned after the case ends. I rested at home for half a day, then went to work as usual the next day. We held a project meeting that afternoon. Everything was progressing as planned. Afterward, Lu Xingrong pulled me into his office. Brother, we need to consider the project's initial funding. Only a little over 200 million is available. Your first phase needs 8 to 10 million. Should we borrow from a bank? If we do, Mayor, one should speak to the banks. No need. I shook my head and pushed a sheet of paper toward him. Open these accounts for me. Domestic and international futures accounts. His eyes widened. Don't you know how risky futures are? What if we lose it? I said confidently. Don't worry. We won't. Don't ask the mayor for money. Ask the market. Tell me when the accounts are ready. Just watch the rest. All accounts were opened 3 days later. Over the following week, I practically lived at the company, handling project work during the day, and watching international markets at night, sometimes until 3 or 4 in the morning. Xu Meng was terribly worried. On the first night, she arrived carrying a thermos. She opened the door and saw me staring at the screen, then set it on the desk. Drink the rib soup before working. I looked up at her. A little head peeked out behind her. Daddy, Mommy said you're hurt but still working. I came to supervise you. Qianqian ran over and leaned close beside me. I smiled. All right, supervise me. Xu Meng sat nearby, frowning at the colorful lines on the screen. Can you understand all this? Your husband has many talents. That night, they stayed until 10:30 and came every day afterward. The thermos held something different each day. Lu Xingrong stopped going home to sleep too. He had a room prepared next door and watched the market with me at night. If he couldn't understand, he just sat nearby, occasionally asking, Any movement yet? I said, Not yet. Then he kept waiting. On the third night, he summoned the administration manager and arranged 2 shifts, triple pay for the night shift, to support President Chen. 20 minutes later, coffee and snacks arrived. Lu Xingrong leaned on the sofa and muttered, Even I, the chairman, never got this treatment. I stared at the screen and ignored him. Finance Director Li came to see me specifically about this and earnestly said, President Chen, 200 million isn't a small sum. With high leverage and volatility, one mistake could wipe out the principal overnight. The company is advancing the Southwest project. If this money is lost, the project schedule will suffer, and our bank credit will be affected. He made perfect sense. I smiled. Director Li, I understand all that, but you don't understand my strategy. Just watch. Lu Xingrong was silent, then waved his hand. Do as President Chen says. Director Li took a deep breath, nodded, and left. On the 6th night, the lines on the screen began moving. I stared at several numbers, lightly tapping the keyboard. Lu Xingrong leaned closer. Is it starting? Soon. He nodded. After waiting so many days, it's finally here. Finally. The market moved. I stared at the screen and began typing. Lu Xingrong leaned over. How is it? I said. Open the trading interface. Begin placing short orders. 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. Building positions in batches. He watched the changing numbers, his throat bobbing. It didn't fall on the first day. It rebounded on the second. The short positions showed losses. He couldn't sit still and paced around the room. The atmosphere was oppressive. On the third night, I watched the market while Lu Xingrong rested with his eyes closed. The door opened and a young woman entered with a tray, coffee and snacks neatly arranged. Lu Xingrong woke with a start and glanced at her. New here? She said yes, newly hired by administration. Her name was Xu Yingying. Lu Xingrong froze.
Xu Yingying?
Winning twice. That's a lucky name. I couldn't help laughing. When people are nervous, anything can become emotional support. I said,
Xu Yingying.
You're my secretary now. She was stunned, but quickly reacted. Yes, President Chen. I'll do my best. Another day passed. The market finally moved. The candlestick chart turned downward. One bearish candle erased 3 days of gains. Our floating loss began shrinking. Lu Xingrong stared at the screen, barely daring to blink. At the evening close, the account broke even. He released a long breath, collapsed onto the sofa and said, "Brother, my heart can't take this." I said, "It hasn't even started." He sat upright instantly. "This hasn't started?" I nodded. The next day, at the company meeting, each department reported progress. Finally, material procurement came up. The engineering manager stood and said, "Phase 2 will begin soon. Steel and cement must be ordered early. Prices are still reasonable, but may rise in half a month." Lu Xingrong looked at me. I shook my head. "Wait 3 more days." The engineering manager became anxious. "President Chen, delaying increases costs. If materials rise then, labor will also cost more." I said, "Wait 3 days." He opened his mouth, then looked at Lu Xingrong. Lu Xingrong waved his hand. "Follow President Chen." Meeting adjourned. That night, the market moved narrowly with little activity. Lu Xingrong leaned on the sofa, his eyelids growing heavier, until he fell asleep completely. I stared at the screen, feeling drowsy too. The door quietly opened. Xu Yingying entered with a tray. The instant it opened, the numbers on screen suddenly jumped. A huge bearish candle broke straight through support. My eyes lit up. Here it comes. I couldn't help glancing at Xu Yingying. This girl was strangely lucky. The market launched as soon as she opened the door. Lu Xingrong woke with a start, rubbed his eyes and sat up. "What happened?" I said. "Come look." He jolted awake, springing from the sofa, and rushing to the computer. The numbers were jumping wildly. One bearish candle after another plunged. The account balance began doubling. 200 million became 400 million. 400 million became 500 million. Lu Xingrong stared wide-eyed, his mouth hanging open, unable to utter a word. He instinctively lifted the coffee beside him, took a sip, then grimaced from the heat, but never looked away from the screen. His voice trembled. "Brother, should we close the position? Isn't this enough?" I said. "What's the hurry?" I opened the trading interface. "Not only are we not closing, we're adding more." His face twitched. "More?" 200 million became 500 million. I'm already satisfied. I clicked the mouse and added 20%. He watched me operate, his hands shaking. By closing, profits had pulled back slightly, leaving 450 million, but our position was larger. I took out my phone and messaged Xu Meng, "Transfer the 20 million on my card to the futures account." She quickly replied, "Done. Be careful." I smiled and set my phone aside. The next day, Lu Xingrong was distracted all day. He finally endured until 8, 9, then 10 at night. Before the market even opened, prices were already reacting. During pre-market auction, the price gapped sharply lower, then kept falling. Lu Xingrong stared at the screen, as if nailed to his chair, completely motionless. I opened the account. Profit, 1.7 billion. He swallowed and said, "Brother, still not closing?" I said, "Not yet." He asked, "How low are you waiting for?" I watched the screen. Negative. His legs went weak, and he nearly slid from the chair. One hand braced on the desk. He steadied himself and said, "Negative? Brother, are you serious?" I said, "Completely serious." Holding the desk, he slowly sat back down and said nothing more, just stared at the screen. Late that night, the price approached zero. I began covering in batches, closing part of the short position and locking in profits. The rest waited for the final move. At 3:17 a.m., the price touched zero. Lu Xingrong sprang to his feet. My fingers flew across the keyboard. The final short positions closed with the screen frozen at 2.3 billion. Lu Xingrong collapsed back into his chair, gasping heavily. I opened another account. Xu Meng's 20 million had become over 300 million. It wasn't over. At 3:20 a.m., the price kept falling, finally settling at -37.63. Lu Xingrong stared at the number, then slowly turned to look at me, as though looking at a monster. He said, "Brother, may I kowtow to you now?" I laughed. "Oh my God." He suddenly sat up, grabbed my arm and said, "Brother, why am I still doing real estate? Let's trade futures full-time." We stayed awake all night. At 9, the domestic futures market opened. Overseas markets had crashed overnight, so the morning session would certainly follow. This was exactly the chance I wanted. I opened the trading interface and began placing orders. Rebar, hot-rolled coil, glass, cement. Rebar, steel coil, glass, cement. Everything the project needed, at absurdly low prices. In the other account, I'd already closed the short positions and bought crude oil near $0. Oil was still below $10, cheaper than bottled water, but I knew it wouldn't be long before a war in the north pushed oil to $130. Buying now was free money. I also used Lu Xingrong's account, taking $1 billion from the profits, taking $1 billion from the $2.3 billion, to gradually build long positions. Crude oil, copper, rubber, buying some of everything available. At 9:30, the first orders filled. At 10, the second batch. At 11, the third batch. Watching the executions flash across the screen, the corners of my mouth rose. Enough. That afternoon, we held a management meeting. I entered the conference room. Everyone had arrived. Lu Xingrong sat at the head, beaming. "President Chen is here." I sat down and looked around. Finance Director Li, the engineering manager, marketing director, and several vice presidents were all present. Lu Xingrong cleared his throat and came straight to the point. He spoke directly. "We have the first phase funding." Everyone exchanged confused looks. Lu Xingrong pointed at me. "Take a guess. How much did President Chen earn for the company last night?" He held up 2 fingers, then changed the gesture, forming 23. $2.3 billion, from $200 million in principal. He earned $2.3 billion last night. The conference room erupted. Finance Director Li shot to his feet, his chair sliding far back. He stared at me wide-eyed, mouth opening, but no words coming out. I waved my hand. "Director Li, stay calm. Everyone." The market simply presented an opportunity. I happened to catch it. Lu Xingrong burst into laughter, without any restraint. "You all saw the news, right? Crude oil fell below $0 yesterday. Who could catch that opportunity by chance? I certainly couldn't. But that's fine. President Chen can catch such chances." He stood with both hands on the table. "Now everything is solved. We have Phase 1 funding, and Phase 2 won't be a problem. We can fully commit to the Southwest project." Thunderous applause erupted. When it died down slightly, Lu Xingrong dropped another bombshell. "Everyone in the company, even the cleaners, will receive an 8,000 yuan bonus. Overtime pay will be doubled for recent overtime workers." At a little after 4, Xu Meng brought me soup in a thermos. Her expression looked strange. I asked, "What's wrong?" "I think I saw my brother just now." "Su Hai?" "Yes." In the first-floor lobby, as the elevator doors closed, I saw someone who looked exactly like him. He seemed to see me too, but didn't come in. I said, "He may have come to discuss business. Many companies are seeking contracts lately." I called the marketing director and asked him to check. A few minutes later, he called back. "President Chen, I found it. A manager Su came earlier, but his company hasn't secured any contracts yet. Should I arrange something for him?" I smiled. "Give them something suitable if available. Their company has a connection to one of our shareholders, but don't give special treatment. Follow the normal process." "Understood." After hanging up, Xu Meng looked at me. "You arranged work for them?" It was effortless, but I never expected that this casual arrangement would create trouble for me. When we returned home that evening, Xu Meng was sitting on the sofa, her eyes red. She had clearly been crying. My heart tightened. She shook her head and wouldn't speak. Qianqian ran over and hugged her. "Mommy cried." I crouched and asked Qianqian, "What happened?" Her little face puffed up, furious. "At dinner today, Grandpa hit Mommy and called her shameless." Rage surged through me. That old man tried to jump at the hospital, and I was the one who saved him. Now he turned around and hit my wife. I took a deep breath and suppressed my anger, gripped Xu Meng's shoulders, and turned her toward me. "Meng, you can tell me anything. I will never let anyone bully you." Tears welled in her eyes again. She threw herself into my arms and held me tightly. "Don't ask. Zuisheng. Please don't ask." "I can't say it." I held her and gently patted her back. After she calmed down, I turned to Qianqian. Was Uncle there? Yes. I took out my phone and called Su Hai directly. Su Hai, what happened today? He paused. Then his tone changed. You have the nerve to ask me? Chen Zuisheng, you're really something. You pushed your own wife into a fire pit, and now pretend nothing happened. I tightened my grip on the phone. Explain yourself clearly. Clearly? You gave my sister to Lu Xingrong as his mistress, in exchange for wealth and status, right? Xiaoya's classmates took photos. Lu Xingrong bought your wife a car at the auto show, a Mercedes worth over $1 million, and I saw it myself. My sister went to Vision Group, carrying a thermos, and took the president's private elevator. You sold your wife for success. Chen Zuisheng, have you no shame? I gripped the phone, without speaking. So that was it. That was the humiliation she'd suffered at dinner. Those relatives looked at her that way, and made sarcastic remarks. Her father slapped her before everyone. All because of a car, an elevator, and a baseless accusation. My heart twisted in pain. Then rage surged again. Xu Meng sat on the sofa, head lowered, shoulders trembling. I took a deep breath. Su Hai, how many vision contracts did your company recently receive? They all count toward your performance, right? He froze. What do you mean? Those contracts are gone. And the house your family lost in the scam. I had planned to make a call to accelerate the process, so it would be returned sooner. Now you can wait normally. At least 3 years. Chen Zuisheng. I hung up and tossed my phone onto the coffee table. Xu Meng looked up at me, her eyes red, tears still on her cheeks. I walked over and pulled her into my arms, comforting her. It's all right now, I'm here. Qianqian ran over too, and hugged both our legs. Early the next morning, the marketing director called. President Chen, that company's manager Su is here again, asking why the business was cancelled. I sneered. Tell him. He offended one of our group shareholders. He can go home and think about it. If he still can't understand, his company won't receive a single contract in Ninghai again. I hung up and continued reading documents. I could imagine Su Hai's expression. In Ninghai real estate marketing, he had somehow offended a Vision Group shareholder. What did that mean? It was a death sentence for his entire business in Ninghai. That afternoon, the marketing director called again. President Chen, their company president is here too, together with manager Su. I said I was in a meeting and refused to see them. I smiled. Leave them waiting. Ignore them. The next day, I had barely sat down at the office when the marketing director called again. President Chen, Manager Su and President Yang are here again. What should we do? I checked the time. 9:30. Yesterday we'd left them waiting for 2 hours, yet they returned first thing this morning. They must have been truly frightened. Take them to the large conference room. The large conference room? President Chen, today's supplier meeting is there. Yes. Have them attend that. He paused for a second. Understood. I hung up and organized the documents on my desk. For the Southwest District project, Vision was the general contractor. Old City redevelopment and Riverside expansion. The scale was enormous. Too much for us alone. Steel, cement, advertising, exhibitions. Every supplier would gather today to hear the rules clearly. At exactly 10, I opened the large conference room door. The room was packed with people. I glanced around and immediately spotted Su Hai and President Yang. They had arrived late, so 2 extra stools were placed by the wall, making them stand out. Impossible not to notice. Su Hai's gaze landed on me. His expression instantly froze, his mouth hanging open. His mouth was open. He stared speechlessly. His eyes widened, his whole body frozen like a statue. I ignored him and walked straight to the podium. Let me introduce myself. My name is Chen Zuisheng, the new CEO of Vision Group. People whispered below, exchanging glances. I invited everyone here today because of the Southwest District project. Old City redevelopment, Riverside expansion. I needn't explain its scale. Everyone present, over the next 3 years, will receive a share of this project. But there is one rule. My voice deepened. All suppliers must follow unified deployment and unified action. Material standards, construction schedules, inspections. Everything follows the plan. Whoever fails is removed. I surveyed the room. Vision eats the meat. You drink the soup, but how you drink it is my decision. The room was silent for a few seconds. Then someone spoke. Rest assured, President Chen, we'll cooperate fully. Just give your orders. We'll follow you. The voices grew louder, excitement written on every face. After returning to my office, less than 10 minutes after I sat down, Su Yingying called. President Chen, President Yang and Manager Su request a meeting. Let them in. The door opened, and President Yang entered smiling broadly, extending his hand immediately. President Chen, when I met you at your company last time, I knew you were extraordinary. Who would have thought that so soon? You'd become Vision's CEO. Truly young and accomplished. I took his hand and shook it. You're too kind, President Yang. Su Hai followed behind, standing in the doorway, unable to enter or retreat. I didn't even look at him. Ying, make tea for President Yang.
Xu Ying ác no wet.
Brought over a cup and placed it before President Yang. Su Hai remained standing, his face alternating red and pale. There was no tea for him. President Yang's eyes shifted. An experienced man like him naturally saw there was trouble between Su Hai and me, but he also knew Su Hai was my relative, so some things couldn't be said directly. I came straight to the point.
President Yang.
You're here for a project, right? He froze. I pointed at Su Hai. Until his problem is resolved, your company receives no projects. Su Hai's face changed. You? President Yang quickly stopped him.
Xiao Su.
He held Su Hai's arm. You're at fault too. Why can't you speak calmly? Whatever you did wrong, just apologize to President Chen.
Su Hai sẽ chết tai tàn.
His face turning dark red. President Yang looked at him, then at me, and tactfully stood. President Chen, you two talk first. I'll wait outside. He pushed open the door and left. Only Su Hai and I remained. I leaned back and looked at him.
Su Hai,
do you know which Vision Group shareholder you offended? He froze. I don't mean me. I don't care what you do to me. You offended my wife. Your sister, Xu Meng. She is now one of Vision Group's shareholders. Su Hai's eyes widened completely.
Impossible.
I sneered. I said I lived in a garden apartment. You didn't believe me. I said your sister was a Vision shareholder. You don't believe that either. Then what did you see? In the large conference room just now. And what are you seeing here now? What is all this? His throat moved. I picked up the phone. Should I call Chairman Liu and have him tell you who attended Vision Group's last shareholders meeting? Who was present? Su Hai turned completely rigid, standing before me like a tree struck by lightning. That night, after Qianqian fell asleep, Xu Meng finished showering and slipped beneath the covers. Pressing close against me, I wrapped an arm around her. After a moment of silence, she softly said, Zuisheng, thank you. For what? She didn't answer, only rested her head on my chest. Sometimes when I think about it, feels like a dream. The way our family is now. Qianqian is healthy, business is good, and we live well. She paused. But when I remember our wedding, it still feels a little bitter. It was so simple. No one from your family came, and my parents had that attitude. We didn't even have a proper ceremony. She buried her face against my chest and said no more. I held her, without speaking, but something stirred inside me. When we married, I hadn't been reborn yet. The original gambling addict didn't care about the wedding. Xu Meng married me despite her entire family's opposition, and endured that shabby ceremony alone. Hearing her say this now, I should give her a real wedding, as though marrying her again. That thought, feeling her warmth against my chest, I became faintly excited. Once decided, I acted. The next day, Sunday, I woke early, while Xu Meng was still asleep. I kissed her forehead, then went out the door, straight to Ninghai's oldest jewelry store, which specialized in custom pieces. After hearing my request, the manager took out a box. You're very fortunate. We just acquired a flawless 5-carat decolor diamond, Belgian cut, with exceptional brilliance. A loose diamond lay inside the box, pure under the light, like a frozen drop of water. This stone is exceptional. We simply haven't found a customer worthy of it. If you want it, we can begin immediately and craft it on site. 3 hours. I nodded. Begin. 2 hours later, a perfect round diamond rested on black velvet, every facet scattering tiny shards of light, like holding a star in my hand, like a star clasped in my palm. When I returned, Xu Meng had just awakened, wandering through the living room in pajamas, while Qianqian lay on the sofa drawing.
He walked over,
knelt on one knee, and opened the ring box.
Xu Meng.
She froze. Our last wedding doesn't count. This time it's me. Chen Zuisheng asking to marry you. She covered her mouth, tears instantly filling her eyes. Unable to speak, she only nodded, nodding desperately. Qianqian jumped from the sofa and rushed over. Mommy is crying. Daddy, you're bullying mommy. Xu Meng laughed through her tears. He isn't bullying me. She couldn't continue, and only held me tightly. I slid the ring onto her ring finger. Perfect fit.